Hello, everybody. This is the 16th podcast, 16th episode of Slice of the Lifeless podcast.
I before before we get into uh, the episode, I would like to. I have this fortune cookie again, and I would like to attempt to uh, uh, open an episode with an interesting fortune cookie.
Lucky
Uh,
numbers मिलने वाला पता है मुझे.
I do not know. It seems to be the same brand of fortune cookie. Oh, this is bad. Oh. Aim high, time flies.
Hmm.
I mean, that's at least lucky days or numbers नहीं बता रहा I guess.
Aim high, time flies.
And this kind of fortune cookie that would give you anxiety. Now, this coffee is good. So, आज, right before the podcast, I had to go out to a cafe, uh, get myself some new beans. I purchased, I think, light roasted beans for the first time today. Like, there's like a range of how dark you can roast your beans. Like, usually go somewhere around medium, and this bar I went for light. And uh, I'm just having that coffee for the first time right now. It's pretty good.
तो क्या डिफरेंस आता है कम रोस्ट करना ज़्यादा रोस्ट करने में?
Uh, from what I understand, by roasting a bean less, you try to preserve the original experience, flavors of the coffee, and as dark as you roast them, they lose their uh, uh, flavor. Like, that's why a lot of specialty coffee people have uh, pivoted towards light roasted coffees. तेरी लाइट आए जाए जा रही है.
हाँ, yes.
I think you'll be fine. तेरी बैटरी खत्म नहीं होगी. And talking about coffee, नहीं, coffee. कुछ episodes पहले I also mentioned that I bought a grinder,
Yes.
but I never really talked about it. I've been really enjoying that grinder. It's a hand grinder. Some people hate hand grinders because like you have to do it with your hand, but it's affordable. I don't mind it. Some people really like that ritual of grinding coffee. I don't, I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it either. So it's
Hmm.
nice. Uh, उसका I am still I so when I bought that grinder, I spent a good amount of time trying to figure out the grind size because I've never grinded coffee before. And and for a maybe French press use कर रहा हूँ तो I have to figure out the right grind size for French press. But uh, over the months of drinking coffee, I do have a good decent idea of what grind size to look for. So that helped. Uh, and there was this problem I came across uh, with the grinder, which like pretty much everyone with who tries to grind coffee comes across, is that when you roast coffee, it develops some sort of static electricity. It's ionized.
mm,
ठीक है? And when you try to grind it with a grinder, 'cause, and like grind kiya coffee ko and then you look at your beans, they don't just drop into the basket cleanly. They make sort of a mess, and ऊपर grinder में भी चिपके रहते हैं because it's ionized. And it they came up like this is a popular coffee grinding problem, and the community has come up with a really simple solution to this. Some people use a deionizer, a separate machine to deionize their beans.
mm. You use a separate machine just to clean up जो तुमने ग्राइंडर में यूज करा. Does it cause anything
नहीं नहीं
like?
नहीं नहीं. Before grinding the beans, it does not
Yeah.
like ionized coffee does not ruin the coffee. It's just a really it becomes really messy. You have to get a brush to brush some uh, coffee off the grinder to get it all.
हाँ,
समझ रहा है?
हाँ,
एंड वो कप में भी वो उसे चिपके रहता है इधर स्टैटिक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी की वजह से. एंड you what was I saying?
deionize. How do they deionize
I do
coffee?
not know, but the what most people do that I also started doing is they take a spray bottle with water in it and spray water on the coffee like twice or thrice,
Mm,
and it deionizes it.
mm,
And uh, I don't know, but that felt like it's not something I came up with, but uh, it just felt good that it was a thing. Like
mm,
such a solution that I would not expect to something. Like
mm,
would thoda it feeds into that idea that I talked about earlier that coffee as a hobby is science for the non-scientists.
हाँ. I remember कि जब पहली बार वो एनीमे देखा था टोक्यो गूल. इसमें एक पूरा सीक्वेंस था एक एपिसोड में जिसमें वो एक उस कैफे के जो वो थे ओनर थे वो पूरा समझाते हैं कॉफी के बारे में हाउ इंट्रिकेट इट इज कॉफी मेकिंग प्रोसेस और उससे कितना डिफरेंस आता है उसके फ्लेवर में. इट वाज क्वाइट इंटरेस्टिंग. मुझे
Uh,
लगा था कॉफी समवॉट लाइक चाय है कि हाँ बस चाय पत्ती डालो शक्कर डालो बन जाएगी. वैसे कॉफी पाउडर डालो शक्कर डालो एंड दैट्स हाउ एवरीबॉडी मेक्स इट.
uh, that's I'm not sure चाय के बारे में. चाय का भी there is are very unique cultures around the world. इंडिया में specifically uh, we make tea by boiling it with water and milk. Coffee की दुनिया में that's not something you do. Like you never heat coffee up with the water
Mm,
क्योंकि that change in temperature ruins the whole extraction process. So is it's something I'm curious about. Like, is there a are there similar ideas around tea? Because I know that I think Europeans just use their tea bags, right? They uh, just pour boiling water into like
mm.
the tea bags. So they are not changing temperatures, and there's also a very prominent Japanese tea culture, and of course China. I'm curious about how they make tea. Uh, Currently occupied with coffee.
I feel pretty left out honestly because मेरे को ना टी अच्छी लगती ना मेरे को कॉफी अच्छी लगती है.
Uh, Tea, like I have not had chai a lot in my life, but which like some people have made me drink chai a few times, and I will admit that in certain situations from certain places it does taste really good chai, but I really I mean I'm not saying that's the reason I don't drink it, but I don't like the aftertaste of chai. I, like eh, I think it's because of the milk. Milk has fat in it and it just lingers on your tongue for so long. I
Do you not like milk? मतलब अगर मैं चाय को बाजू में रख दूँ, if I just ask you to drink milk, would you not like milk?
I like milk. वो मैं उसकी बात कर रहा हूँ चाय का कुछ weird सा after taste आता है which lingers for a long time because of the milk. I've had black teas and green teas. इतना नहीं बस एक दो बार I've tried. I think इंदौर में yeah. But uh, they had a huge variety of teas to choose from, and I chose one, and I really did not understand why I was paying so much for something that is not very interesting at all. I would not go out of my way to drink that. I mean, that could just be an arbitrary experience. I would like to get into the world of tea or at least explore it at least once.
There is one scenario जहाँ पे मेरे को चाय ठीक लगती है, which is जब मैं बीमार मतलब specifically जब मेरे को सर्दी होती है, then I can drink it as a medicine. In that scenario, it's good. But as a generally पीने के लिए, I do not like it.
You like it, uh, your throat feels better.
हाँ, उसमें कि जिंजर और वो सब हर्ब्स वगैरह डालते हैं टी में.
Uh,
It's good.
I'm that I'm really curious about how this stuff works. Okay, there is this certain stuff that if you drink or eat, it makes your throat feel better for some reason. I really
हाँ,
like, hmm, that feels like a weird phenomenon. Because ginger feels really good when you have a sore throat. And I've heard the same about honey.
हाँ, सर्दी में वो शहद और काली मिर्च मिक्स करके लेते हैं.
And honestly, tastes good. I would वो शहद और काली मिर्च वाला combination. I would like to see that used in some sort of dish.
नो, नहीं, आई सी इट एज अ मेडिसिन 100%.
अरे मैं
हाँ,
उसकी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ कि it completely tastes like that medicine. I just That combination is interesting enough to try and derive something from that.
I I still don't see it भी यूज होते हुए उस टेस्ट को.
Honey chili potato.
कौन से एक्चुअली जो तूने मेंशन करा उसके अलावा और कहाँ हनी यूज होती है?
Like savory खाने में,
हाँ.
like uh, I, like savory खाने में sweets vibe, like ऐसे ही combinations बनाने में use होगा, like where like it goes well with the spiciness. या फिर तू स्वीट्स की भी बात कर रहा है?
नहीं, स्वीट्स में तो ठीक है, बहुत जगह यूज होती नहीं वो. एक्चुअली मेरे को स्वीट्स में याद नहीं कहाँ कभी हनी यूज होता. I actually
People,
cannot remember. Eat with.
a lot of people like to eat honey with granola and oats. उसके ऊपर pour करके as a
नहीं
sugar
ऐसा कोई,
substitute.
आई एम सेइंग कि कोई एक्चुअल ऐसा कोई पॉपुलर फूड जहाँ पे स्टेपल है कि हाँ हनी डलता ही है जिसमें, फूड
Uh,
आइटम जिसका एक इम्पोर्टेंट इंग्रेडिएंट
it's
हनी हो.
it's just a sweetener, isn't it? Like I think जहाँ पे you can use honey, like you would have the option to use all these other kinds of sweeteners, shakkar या honey. I think up to the that's the choice of the person.
पता नहीं, मेरे को बिल्कुल याद नहीं कोई एक्चुअली फूड में मैंने हनी खाया हो कभी.
क्या बात कर रहे हैं?
हाँ.
Hmm. Like mm, it's not common to have honey in your food, I guess.
शुगर सिरप बहुत जगह यूज होता है ऑफ कोर्स, बट नॉट हनी.
Sugar syrup कहाँ यूज हुआ?
गुलाब जामुन, जलेबी.
Right, right.
जैसे वो भी पैनकेक्स टाइप का तो उसमें भी डलता है.
Oh, I've had honey with French toast.
फ्रेंच टोस्ट.
Like, you know what French toast is?
इट्स अ फ्रेंच टोस्ट. अ टोस्ट दैट
अरे
इज फ्रेंच.
you take eggs, you dip bread in it, and then you fry it on a pan.
यस यस.
I've had honey with that.
और बता, तेरा हेलोवीन था अभी कुछ दिन.
Yes. परसों था Halloween. It was. I dressed up as Spike Spiegel. I think you've already seen the picture at this point.
यस. इट वाज. हाँ, तूने एक्चुअली एंड में डिसाइड करा राइट स्लीव्स को फोल्ड करने के लिए.
Yes. After much contemplation, I decided to fold the sleeves, and uh, it did not ruin the sleeves. I think the sleeves are all right after I unrolled them. Uh, so I dressed up as Spike Spiegel and went to a class. वहाँ पर बाकी सब भी बैठे हुए थे in their own costumes, and that class ended early.
वेट एक सेकेंड, तुम्हें हेलोवीन के दिन में तुम्हें क्लास ड्रेसअप होके जाना था?
This was a department thing.
कैन यू
The-
मेरे को लगा,
It
आई
was
विल
a
टेल यू माय
dep
एक्सपेक्टेशन. आई वाज थिंकिंग कि हाँ उस दिन कॉलेज ऑफ रहेगा बिकॉज फेस्टिवल, और तुम्हारी सिर्फ एक हेलोवीन पार्टी है जिसमें तुम जा रहे हो. दिस
No,
वाज
no,
माय assumption.
no, no. This was not a party. It was a department get together sort of thing.
सो डिड यू हैव एनी लेक्चर? तूने बोला क्लास,
हाँ,
तो मींस कोई
Halloween
लेक्चर
is
चल
not
रहा
a
था?
holiday.
Seriously?
Huh?
Oh,
Uh,
isn't it like a major festival there?
I mean, it is, uh, but it's not a holiday.
I guess इसको रात में celebrate करते हैं.
I think it's actually more fun to not have it as a holiday because people get to go to work in interesting outfits, even schools and
हाँ
work,
ये हाँ हाँ.
like meet their colleagues like that. Uh, but yeah, so the class ended a little early because of the get together. We went to the class, a lot of the costumes, man, and people rec yeah, and then they said, okay, this is the yearly department Halloween get together, and we decide best costume. उसके लिए we that is judged based on the costume and the walk you do. So apparently you're supposed to do a walk down the hallway.
that was also the concept जो हमारे कॉलेज में हेलोइन पार्टी में होता था कि you have to get a good costume and then you have to do a walk. जहाँ पे होता था हमारा.
Yeah, so like all the costumed people were told to go up the hallway and like, get out of the view so we can walk down uh, one at a time. I was watching all these people go in their interesting, quirky walks with their quirky walks. Like a man dressed as penguin, just it's pretty simple for a penguin, and some people dressed as horror thing, just uh, doing the horror run, I guess. वो ghost वाली walk जो होती
हाँ
है.
हाँ.
Uh, मैं last तक wait किया. I was the last person to go. But before that, I'll tell you that while we were waiting there for the with the walk, one person pointed at me and said, "Are you Spike Spiegel?" And that made my day. Like, you would notice that I'm not wearing a tie. Spike Spiegel wears a tie. I did not have a black tie. I did not want to buy a black tie for this. Although I was regretting not having a black tie that day. Uh, क्योंकि like that would have made the costume pretty much perfect.
हम्म,
Uh, so I yeah, so we one person recognized me. That made my day. फिर and I waited till last. इसमें by the way, in this costume party, there professors be involved. They're wearing costumes as well.
हम्म,
तो मेरी बारी आई. I gathered the courage to like I said. Well, I was really wondering what would Spike Spiegel do? कैसे form करेगा Spike Spiegel? I just मैं निकला hallway में with a gun made out of my hands and did that pose against the wall, like when you're hiding from a
yeah
shootout
yeah हाँ.
during a shootout, and then did a regular Spike Spiegel walk down the hallway. And a professor asked me while I was walking down, "Are you James Bond?" I said, "No, I'm a space cowboy." And then at that point, when I said that while walking down the hallway, at that point everyone realized who I was collectively.
mm.
And then it was over. And then the non-costume people were told to go judge to decide who the best costume is, and I won.
Really?
Mm.
What were some of the other costumes they had?
Actually, one of the other costumes were like they decided the one of the other good costumes was a professor dressed as sort of a plague doctor kind of costume. It was a plague doctor kind of costume with a beacon. And
Mm,
the thing with that costume was that we just had a class with that professor, and our perception of that professor is sort of uh, not as like jolly. Like he's a great guy, but you know we see him as slightly serious person.
mm.
And the thing with his costume was he was completely covered with his costume, and for like 5 minutes standing in the room, we did not even recognize him until he said hi to someone.
Mm,
So it was the he won best professor and I won best student. Other costumes were someone was dressed as a witch, someone was dressed as a penguin, as I told you already. Somebody came as mm, Chandler Bing from Friends. He's
oh,
a character from Friends. Uh, I don't remember. A professor dressed as a cowboy,
oh,
and hmm, there was a skeleton costume, I think. Uh, yeah, uh, I think there was also a wizard. Uh,
wizard.
uh, so,
Did he have a broom?
uh,
Wait, wizards
she,
have a broom? Oh, shit.
no, she did not have a broom. Uh, but yeah, then it ended. I had another class after that, and then I went home. That night, I decided that, like, I had dinner at home, but I decided that it's Halloween, I should go out and see what it looks like.
Mm,
Costume उतार ली थी, and like I just decided to go out eat and उस बहाने देख लूंगा मैं बाहर
mm,
क्या चल रहा है. And they were way like I got to see so many interesting costumes.
mm,
Like, yeah, it was a very strange feeling to like I've told you, right? I live pretty much adjacent to the main street. I don't live on it, but like it's just a small walk away. So I went to get a burger. I had a burger, and I was going back on my way back. Like while going, I saw some costumes, but on my way back, I saw so many more. Like I saw gigantic SpongeBob and Patrick. Like it was like गुब्बारे से फूले हुए ऐसे costumes. Like there were a lot of high effort costumes, and this is a student city, and Main Street is pretty much occupied by students. So I was going back after eating my burger. I also saw Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, and there was also a Homelander crossing the street. It, no, there were uh, sub, a lot of couples costume, one of which was Velma and Scooby Doo for some reason.
Mm.
Uh, I was going back, and a bunch of Spider-Men said hi to me, and I said hi, and then kept walking. But I don't know that I was I had been feeling bad, like I was almost home at this point, and something did not feel right to me because I just witnessed a lot of interesting costumes on my way back.
Mm.
I felt that it's once in a life, one of the once in a lifetime experiences. I should turn back and explore more.
Mm.
At least I should take a full, like complete walk off the main street.
Mhm.
So I decided to do that. I thought I had not decided if I wanted to, but I thought I might get a drink or something because I felt that there would be an interesting uh, environment on this day. And the streets were filled with so many costumed people. जितना मैं मेन स्ट्रीट के अंदर घुसता गया, and like बार्स के बाहर लाइनें लगी हुई है लंबी लंबी हर बार के बाहर, and they don't look like I can get in without waiting for at least 2 hours.
Mm.
और लाइनें कॉस्ट्यूम पीपल की लगी हुई है, and एक ग्रुप ऑफ स्पाइडरमैन आके लूफी को पॉइंट करके कह रहे हैं वन पीस इज सो मिड. हाँ, so yeah. Oh, one of the uh I like how on Halloween you can dress as anything. It's not just a horror thing. But I also like how it has a tendency for horror. Well,
Mm.
yeah. So one of the I wasn't expecting to see anything creepy that day. Uh, it's a very simple image, but at a glance, I was really creeped out by it. Yeah. So when I was heading back, I saw this group of girls uh, in their regular feminine cosplays, uh, like, and they were walking together. And
Mm.
a as a part of the group, right behind them, a really huge, tall guy in a good Mike Myers costume is quietly walking behind them.
Who's Mike? I don't know that person.
Uh, Wait, I'll show you. It's wait, I'm not able to find a decent GIF of him.
Just Google image.
Uh, मैं GIF भेजा तुझे. Uh,
Oh, is it from क्या नाम था उसका? Saw
नहीं,
or
it's from that movie. is it Halloween? मुझे याद नहीं आ रहा. I think the movie is called Michael Myers. Uh, the movie it's Halloween. The movie is Halloween.
Mm,
And he is a slasher character and a stalker kind of character. So that image was very weird, mm, and interesting.
mm.
Yeah. That like walking on the street on that night was genuinely a strange feeling.
Which was your favorite
Yeah.
uh, costume?
Right? I I don't remember. I don't think I had a thought like that at that moment. I just enjoyed the collective
Mm,
heterogeneity of this whatever I was seeing.
mm.
They were, yeah, a lot of great costumes.
Speaking of creepy things, you sent me a podcast about our podcast.
Uh-huh. So you remember we did an episode with Tiana, right?
Yeah.
Ah, so when I was editing that, I thought uh, uh, to uske pehle I will mention this. Google recently released this product, AI product called Notebook LM. I think it's supposed to be a tool to help writers in their process, which seems, honestly, it seems like a decent way to use AI in such cases instead of like just having them completely do all the work. Like it's actually, this might actually be prove to be a useful way to do this. So I'm interested in that product. So I had been exploring that a little, and I thought, कि if, and I realized कि this thing can also take audio files. अभी तक I was uploading PDFs या Word documents वगैरह. I realized it can also take audio files. I thought that I don't. This might prove to be a good way to write descriptions for our podcast without having to like, better than what they are right now without having to work harder. But I uploaded the audio, and there's also so this feature in this where you can generate an audio about the about whatever you have uploaded, whatever document you have uploaded. You can generate an audio, and it would uh, generate a podcast sort of scenario where two people are talking about that document. And I did that with this with with the podcast we recorded with Tiana. So I generated Uh, so it did not honestly do a good job at writing a description for the podcast because it had to do two things. One, detect all the words in the podcast. And I realized that a chunk of our podcast is also in Hindi,
Uh,
so like it probably won't do well for that. It's only trying to detect it in one language. Uh, So, I did not do a great job at that, but just for the fun of it, I also had it. generate an audio about the podcast.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. We also get a little peek into Tiana's, how should I say, enthusiastic side
Oh, yeah.
when it comes to the show Supernatural,
Oh, yes. Especially the Winchester brothers.
especially the Winchester brothers. And it's funny because her partner Batsy knows all about it.
Knows all about it.
Yeah.
Even down to the supernatural wallpaper.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
What's that?
Batsy gets jealous
Of the actors?
of the actors.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
come on.
I know. It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's like relationship dynamics that you don't expect.
Yeah. It's funny though, right? It just goes to show that even when it comes to fictional characters,
Mm-hmm.
those feelings of jealousy, they can pop up.
Yeah. It makes you think, like, what are the things that we get jealous of in our own lives?
It was really creepy listening to it, I would say. What was your experience?
When I did it for the first time for documents, I was really weirded out by it. I like, that was like too realistic.
Yes.
But after I did it a few times, I started noticing some patterns, and even like I think there has been an increase personally for me too, like increase in uh, weird things it does with its content. Like yeah,
Mm.
but it's still uh, surprisingly good at what it's trying to do.
Yes. ऊपर से इसमें it really felt like two actual people talking to each other. That was really creepy to me.
Uh,
I did not recognize that it was AI generator until later, much
There
later.
are sighs in it, chuckles in it. It's,
Yes.
it's like the right amount of pauses. I and like they change their tone in the way they should. Honestly, they sound more human than I do.
You know, तो जैसे ये बोला ये सेंटेंस वैसे ही बैकग्राउंड में कोई पटाखा फूटा. It was like perfect timing for it.
I I do not know what to do about that.
मैं सुन रहा था I noticed something कि it was getting one thing wrong consistently, which was कि कौन सा person क्या बोल रहा था.
That's I think one of the things. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised that it got right the amount it did. Like assigning किसको करना है. I feel that if we had introduced ourselves properly in the beginning of the episode, it would have been better क्योंकि उसमें I as a character do not have a name. So it usually confuses me for who I am. I think it tends to assign me as Wolfie. And I actually even you can chat about the content as well. And I asked like few questions. One of them was, "What are your criticisms of the podcast?" uh, and it think it gave some valid criticisms to be honest. Said
What did
that
what
uh,
criticism?
I think one of the like most valid was that the host speaks too much to the podcast.
Hmm.
There's not a balance in how much the host and the other people speak. Which honestly
What can
it's something I had been thinking about for a while. It was weird for the
yeah.
AI bot to point it out.
Actual listeners तो सुन नहीं रहे हमको AI से फीडबैक ले ले.
नहीं सुनता है भटूरा और यश होपफुली वरुण uh, yeah, so it was it is a weird product Do you have any thoughts on it?
एक्चुअली आई एम प्रिटी वेरी सरप्राइज्ड कि उसने पूरा 3.5 घंटे का ऑडियो फाइल एज एन इनपुट लिया. लाइक इज इट अ पेड प्रोडक्ट जो तू यूज कर रहा है, इज इट फ्री?
No, it's free.
सो लाइक उतना बड़ा पूरी ऑडियो फाइल को प्रोसेस करना और फिर उसको उतना लंबा उसका आउटपुट देना, लाइक इट सीम्स कि
उसने 20 मिनट का ऑडियो जनरेट किया, लाइक एज अ पॉडकास्ट, है ना? लाइक आई थिंक इट्स
हाँ,
20 मिनट talking about our podcast.
which is quite impressive because this chat GPT, I don't think वो जैसे ज़्यादा बड़ा इनपुट ले सकता है या फिर
I feel that in the
ज़्यादा.
paid version of ChatGPT you can uh,
या
ज़्यादा
सो
लंबे.
लाइक जैसे तू बोल रहा हो गूगल का फ्री है अपेरेंटली, इट्स
I
क्वाइट
mean,
इम्प्रेसिव. और डज इट हैव ट्रायल पीरियड स्टार्टिंग का which you're using?
I feel that like Google is sort of does not really have a choice, I guess, at this point. I guess it's lagging behind for being Google, I'm assuming. Like, it's surprising that Google's is not the most popular AI uh, product right now. It's ChatGPT that's so and ChatGPT based technology. So I feel that it it's lagging behind, and Google has the option to be able to give stuff for free. Is of how uh, dispersed its uh,
Resources are.
uh, like putting out a product for free does not put dent in Google.
बट AI in particular जितना मैं पढ़ा हूँ कि takes quite a lot of processing power. And I think जैसे तूने बताया वो product as it will get popular it is bound to get some limitations on कितना usage कर सकते हो. Because even ChatGPT which is owned by Microsoft essentially, वो उसमें भी कई बार log in करते तो वो आता है कि there's too much traffic and we have to wait a while before we can use it.
I've not used ChatGPT in a long time. Honestly, when the that was first introduced, I assumed that I would be using it, ultimately be using it more than I do right now. I don't really, yeah, I don't use it that often.
या बिकॉज एक होता है कि हाँ ऐसे ही मजे के लिए ट्राई आउट करने के लिए यूज करो, एक होता है कि अपने वर्क के लिए यूज करो, राइट? सो लाइक इन माय केस आई यूज इट अ लॉट फॉर कोडिंग एंड स्टफ बिकॉज इट इज़ वेरी गुड एट एक्सप्लेनिंग कि तुम्हें पूरा टेक्स्ट नहीं पढ़ना, तुम्हें पूरा समझना नहीं, और यू हैव एनी डाउट जिसको यू वुड अदरवाइज सॉल्व इट बाय गूगलिंग और फिर जाके ब्लॉग पोस्ट सर्च करो, उससे बेटर है कि चैट जीपीटी से पूछो बिकॉज
I
इट.
Yeah, the most I use it for is when I'm reading something, trying to understand something, but I'm having a difficult time understanding it. I just take that excerpt of the text and uh, ask ChatGPT to explain it like I'm five. That's one of the useful features of it, but it starts giving me sometimes it starts giving me analogies for toys, which is not very useful.
Yeah. हाँ मेरे को भी याद है उसको, जब उसको एक्सप्लेन लाइक 5 बोलो तो ओके यू एक्सपेक्ट कि हाँ वो आसान शब्द में बताएगा, बट इट जनरली अज्यूम्स लाइक यू आर इन स्कूल राइट नाउ.
Like what toys वाली toys की analogies देने लगता है. Hmm.
एंड
It's
स्पीकिंग ऑफ, जब अभी जो गेंशिन में खेलता हूँ राइट, उसका जो लेटेस्ट पैच आया है तो उसमें हर पैच के साथ ऐसे स्टोरी जो उसकी मेन स्टोरी वो कंटिन्यू होती है राइट.
Right.
बट उसकी जो मेन स्टोरी की जो डायलॉग्स हैं उनका सिर्फ टेक्स्ट है, उनका कोई वॉइस ओवर नहीं है इस बार। एंड दैट इज द केस बिकॉज सिर्फ इंग्लिश में ऐसा हो रहा है, बाकी जो जापानीज वॉइस है वो पूरी है। एंड दैट इज द केस बिकॉज जो इंग्लिश वॉइस एक्टर्स है गंशिन के, वो सब स्ट्राइक कर रहे हैं अभी कई महीनों से अगेंस्ट एआई। बिकॉज जो स्टूडियो है, ये सब जो गंशिन है वो थर्ड पार्टी से लेता है, उनके थर्ड पार्टी वेंडर्स होते हैं जो ऑडियो वगैरह वॉइस एक्टर्स के थ्रू रिकॉर्ड करके उनको गंशिन को भेजते हैं। और जो थर्ड पार्टी वो है, like they are developing AI tools. तो जैसे पॉडकास्ट सुना राइट, दे साउंड सो ह्यूमन और like you cannot differentiate. So like they're trying to replace actual voice actors with AI.
I think ChatGPT sort of got into trouble for this a while back as well. Where have you watched Her,
Mm,
the movie Her? So ap- apparently Silicon Valley has this sort of romanticized view of this movie Her, where it's essentially a romance between a man and an AI. I think it came out around 2012. Uh, it's a good movie from what I remember, but it's not a movie to look up to. I feel that it leans more towards being dystopian, and pe some people are unable to see that. So these technologists have this romanticized view of it, where your social life can be sort of replaced by this technology as well. And I think to present that, ChatGPT also released a voice version of it, I think. And one of the voices it released is her may the AI technology is played by Scarlett Johansson,
mm,
and it's just her. It sounds very similar to her voice in her,
mm.
and uh, she did not give the permission for that.
Oh, oh, actually, I have heard this story now that you mention it. Can you actually like sue a company just because one of their voices sounds similar to you? Because there is no way you can actually prove that, right? It is exactly your voice unless you can prove कि हाँ उनने तुम्हारी voice clip से use करके उसे train करा है.
It is certainly a complicated scenario, but I think like the just like it makes things more complicated, but the justice system या फिर कोई भी form of government exists to make a human judgment based on their ultimately their like they try to be as objective as possible, but it's also about the human inkling of
Mm,
what you feel the intent of the person is,
mm.
which you cannot deny. So, hmm, I feel that that would come into play a lot in situations like these.
Was there any conclusion to that story?
No, I have not followed it. I just heard about it. And this is uh it's weird. It exists. This technology exists. Nothing we can do about it.
I don't
Probably a
see any
good
follow-up.
probably a good thing that it exists, but there's still this idea that like it's really easy to not introduce it to the world properly.
बट आई एक्चुअली आई थिंक कि ठीक है अभी वॉइस एक्टर स्ट्राइक कर रहे फॉर देयर राइट्स बट ओवर certain period of time there would totally be enough data available to train and create perfect voices for everything.
I think you
Fiction.
can do that pretty much right now if you want to.
हाँ
I mean, even with the deep fake stuff and all, you can even replicate faces, right? वो तो बहुत पुरानी बात हो गई है.
नहीं बट ठीक है डीप फेक में यू आर यूजिंग एन एक्चुअल पर्सन एंड उसको यूज करके कर रहा सो यू कैन एक्चुअली हैव अ valid argument against them कि हाँ I did not give you permission to use my face and he can see you but I'm saying कि just create an completely artificial voice कि जिसमें कोई एक सिंगल पर्सन का वो नहीं है
I feel that's
इनपुट नहीं
what
है
the Scarlett Johansson. I'm assuming that's what the Scarlett Johansson thing was. Uh, it's just not much I can say about it. I can only
नहीं
see
बिकॉज
where it goes.
स्कारलेट जॉनसन का तो आई गेस केस में ऐसा था कि ओके शी इज अ सेलिब्रिटी सो शी वुड लाइक टू हैव सम काइंड ऑफ प्रॉफिट अगर वो उनमें से उसका यूज कर रहे हैं और एटलीस्ट लाइक have her permission if they are using her voice. But like if there are some voice actors who are new to the industry, they won't care about कि हाँ they would use their voices to generate AI if they're getting some work out of it, even though कि हाँ एक बार voices record हो गई और generate हो गया AI, then they would no longer be required in the industry. मेरे को honestly लगता है कि it is something which is like do definitely happen unless कोई बहुत strict laws वगैरह आते हैं इसके against.
I mean, that's what the strike is for, right?
हाँ
And there should be restrictions to how the technology is used. And I'm like, it is important because if you do not introduce the technology carefully, this has the potential to kill a lot of culture.
let us see how it turns.
20 years later.
20 years you think कि अभी 2-3 साल पहले ही चैट जीपीटी आया था and कब आया था एक्चुअली चैट जीपीटी 2020 में आया था I mean
22. Yeah. I think it got popular in 22.
हाँ and just in 2 years you have completely artificial voices AI generated voices मतलब ऐसा भी नहीं कि मतलब जैसे तेरे ये पॉडकास्ट वाले थे it was so perfectly done and we even have artificial videos and stuff AI generated videos so,
It's going to mess up the internet.
yeah. Anyways let's talk about the media you have consumed.
You watched the new show by Markiplier, huh? The Edge of
Yes.
Sleep.
Yeah.
मैं पूरा देख लिया.
It's pretty small. Each episode 20 मिनट का है and इसमें 20 मिनट में भी intro और outro होता है so it's effectively just 15 minutes.
I watched this clip on YouTube, like it was recommended to me, where about almost over a year ago, he was streaming and he accidentally streamed a clip, like almost streamed something from that show when nothing about that show was revealed. He got really anxious about it, that he was not supposed to do that.
सो या ये सबसे बड़ा क्रिटिसिज्म इस शो का अभी तक यही है कि इट्स प्रीटी स्मॉल एंड आई डोंट नो क्या रीजन से उन्होंने वेब सीरीज चूज करा ओवर अ मूवी बट आई डोंट केयर दैट मच ऑफ कोर्स ठीक है इफ यू एक्सपेक्टेड कि हाँ एक लंबी सीरीज देखना है एंड यू गॉट दिस स्मॉल शो यू वुड बी डिसअपॉइंटेड बट आई वाज नॉट एक्सपेक्टिंग अ लॉन्ग सीरीज सो आई वाज फाइन विद इट इट्स स्मॉल and I was able to finish it in one sitting. I think most लोग जितने भी देखा है they finished the whole series in one sitting. Um, about the show, I had actually low expectations for it. Given कि जो मार्किप्लायर के पिछले shows, well not show but YouTube पे उसने थोड़ा show type का बनाया था which is a heist with Markiplier and uh, in space with
Was
Markiplier.
that a YouTube Red thing? When YouTube Premium was called YouTube Red?
नो अब तो अभी भी है तुम देख सकते हो उसको यूट्यूब पे फ्री में
No, but that's true for everything that was previously YouTube Red. A
आई
lot
डोंट
of
नो
YouTubers started, I think they were sponsored by YouTube, maybe, I'm not sure, to make these high quality series, which will only be available with YouTube Red, which was what the premium version was called back then. But that changed. YouTube Red died, and I think all the series were just let out on YouTube for free.
नो नो बट आई एम प्रीटी श्योर जब मार्किप्लायर ने वो निकाले थे इट वाज फ्री फ्रॉम द वेरी बिगिनिंग इट वाज रिलीज्ड
Oh,
एंड इवन तो इसका भी एज ऑफ स्लीप का देखेगा जो मार्किप्लायर ने बनाया है उसके इसके वीडियो में ही द होल टाइम ही इज एक्सप्लेनिंग हाउ वी कैन वॉच द शो फॉर फ्री कि हाँ अगर
oh,
तुम उसका प्राइम में हो देन दे हैव दिस फ्री ट्रायल करने के लिए which you can use to watch the show. If you're outside US, then you can use a VPN to watch the show and get a free trial. And he's making asking to make sure that we cancel a subscription after we watch the show. And
I think that's still in line with what Amazon wants. I'm not sure. I don't think he's going behind Amazon's back to do that.
हाँ but like even हमेशा से वो पर्सन था जब भी कुछ भी रिलीज करा मीडिया ही ट्राइज कि हर कोई उसको देख पाए एंड लाइक अल्टीमेटली ऐसे जो जिन ये नहीं कर पाए प्राइम को यूज करते देन इट वाज प्रीटी वाइडली स्प्रेड अक्रॉस द पायरेटेड वेबसाइट मूवी देखने वाले इन प्रीटी हाई क्वालिटी लाइक राइट ऑन द डे इट वाज रिलीज्ड वो बहुत हाई क्वालिटी में सब अवेलेबल था तो पायरेटेड
Because
देखना होता
like that's the thing with things released on web, they're pretty much immediately available on the seas.
yeah
So
yeah
how
so
was it?
okay so as I told you उसकी जो पूरी previous series उसने करी थी they were not on par with जो generally web series रहती है but they were pretty fun nonetheless
Made for Markiplier fans. Like people who
हाँ
like the Markiplier character will like these series.
हाँ and I guess पिछले series का एक main part ये था कि उसका generally प्रोफेशनल एक्टर्स नहीं होते थे उसके इस सीरीज में they were just his friends and other people we saw in his videos and the people who played with him video games तो इस सीरीज में ऐसा नहीं था इस सीरीज में एक्चुअली प्रोफेशनल एक्टर्स थे
बस Markiplier को छोड़ के.
हाँ बस मार्किप्लायर को छोड़ के. One thing which was a little weird to me initially, and then I can understand कि उसमें kissing scene था मार्किप्लायर का, which caught me off guard.
Young boy discovers Markiplier is an adult.
No, because like अभी तक उसको ऐसे I did not see him as an actor, just कि हाँ कोई random person है internet पे, but try to play like an professional actor was a little weird.
हाँ, उस sense में it makes sense why it would feel weird क्योंकि you're thinking that he is aware that you would think that he's aware that he is making something just for his fans, but by the sounds of it, you s- s- seem to feel that he wanted to at least make something that could be beyond him, more than him.
I would like to clarify by the way कि ये मार्किप्लायर ने नहीं, मार्किप्लायर की सीरीज नहीं है. Even though वो प्रोटैगनिस्ट है उसका, he did not direct or write the story for it. ये
Yeah.
किसी और ने स्टोरी लिखी,
I
किसी और
think
ने डायरेक्ट करा है पूरा शो.
I think that's obvious.
नो, बिकॉज ये मैं इसका डिस्कशन पढ़ रहा था. इट इज रियली इम्पोर्टेंट टू पॉइंट आउट बिकॉज जो वो मूवी बना रहा है अभी, उसको वो खुद डायरेक्ट कर रहा है, खुद स्टोरी लिख रहा है उसकी, विच इज आयरन
Huh?
लंग.
That's based on a game.
हाँ,
Hmm.
तो वो अलॉन्ग विद द डेवलपर ऑफ दैट गेम वो मूवी बना रहा है. बट दिस सीरीज वो उसने खुद स्टोरी नहीं लिखी है, खुद डायरेक्शन नहीं करा कि कहाँ पे क्या होएगा, क्या सीन आएगा, ये सब वो नहीं. ही इज जस्ट प्लेइंग द एक्टर इन दिस सीरीज. It was really fun.
Like, would you like to explain the premise a little?
Hmm. So मार्किप्लायर को बचपन से नाइटमेयर्स आते रहते थे. And he saw those dream people in his dreams, जो cult टाइप के लोग दिखते हैं. And he saw some kind of बोलेंगे nightmare monster in his dreams हमेशा से. So he's ठीक है, वो एक चीज है. एंड एक इवेंट होना शुरू होता है जिसमें जैसे लोग सोते हैं, they die in their sleep as soon as they fall asleep. So जब ये मूवी स्टार्ट होती है तब वो एक पार्टी में गए होते हैं, जो ओवर नाइट पार्टी टाइप की होती है. सो दे वर स्टेइंग अप इस पार्टी के लिए. बट व्हेन द पीपल इन दैट पार्टी फॉल asleep they won't wake up and they realize they are dead. So they take them to the hospital, and when they go to the hospital they see कि हाँ जहाँ हॉस्पिटल के जितने लोग हैं जो जैसे ही सो रहे हैं वो मरते जा रहे हैं. एंड दे रियलाइज कि हाँ क्या चल रहा है. And then they try to stay awake as long as possible and try to figure out कि हाँ what is happening and what
So,
can we do about it.
if they're not even sleeping, how does the concept of Markiplier had a lot of nightmares as a kid come into play?
It comes into play in figuring out what to do from there, because he gets hints from his sleep कि उन्हें क्या करना है इसके लिए. And for that he has to fall asleep, like just to the edge of being completely asleep, and the other people have to wake him up before he goes into deep sleep.
Oh, that's why it's called the edge of sleep.
हाँ, नॉट, आई गेस हाँ वो एक पार्ट है. फिर अदर लोग को भी वो कई घंटों तक, कई दिनों तक जगे हुए रहते हैं. दे हैव टू keep themselves asleep, so they are also in the edge of sleep.
Hmm.
They have to stay up for a long time, right? As soon as they fall asleep they die.
Okay.
So the battle to keep themselves awake as well.
I don't know why I'm just assuming that it's sort of a tragedy where everybody dies in the end. Not not necessarily a tragedy, but I'm assuming everybody dies at the end.
Should I spoil it or not?
Uh, you can spoil it. I don't mind. Like if
No.
anybody is listening does not want to be spoiled, they can just skip ahead a minute or two, I guess.
Okay, so no, they do not all die. Some of them survive.
Ah, how?
Yeah. So basically in वही जो sleep वो dream में जब वो जाता है where I think ऐसा कुछ था कि he can stay asleep, he can dream for about 30 seconds and then they have to wake him up.
Okay,
So in that dream, they tell him a place in specific island where he have to go, where they can, where those cult people reside basically.
okay,
So then they try to go to that island, which is pretty far away from where they were originally. So in that whole journey, they have to keep themselves and others awake throughout the journey.
right.
And some people die during that journey, and those who make it to the island survive.
Hmm. Okay, sure.
That is the end of spoilers.
I guess to timestamp डाल सकते हैं तब के लिए. And talking about having to stay awake in order to not die,
Mhm.
I watched a Nightmare on Elm Street in the spirit of Halloween recently. I
Oh,
had never watched this film before. Have you watched it?
no, I have not.
Conceptually, it's like it's similar. Okay, these bunch of kids start getting these weird nightmares in the night with a common character, Freddy. I don't
Mm,
remember his full name. Uh, who is trying to kill them in their dreams. And they soon realize, as they die one at a time, that if they die in the dream, if he kills them in the dream, they die in real life.
mm,
So, uh, the character, we see the protagonist just staying, not sleeping at all for days, like just drinking lots of coffee and trying to figure out what to do. It is a deeply annoying film in the way that like some people like, I'm sure that like a lot of people like this film. It's a really popular movie, but I find it difficult to sit through films about people where their surrounding peers do not believe them in a horror film. I do not like that trope at all.
mm,
Like I it's really frustrating to me. Okay, there's this kid who's having all this trouble. And obviously having a lot of trouble, there's no other way to explain it that than it being a supernatural thing. Than to like actually believe her. But the parents just refuse to believe what is happening. This is a psychological thing. I need to take her to a mental hospital to
and
analyze it.
there were kids
And
dying throughout this.
yes, yes, they, they, I just, the film does sort of pay it off with the kind of end it gives. I will not tell you what it is, but to me personally, the considering the movie as a whole, that frustrating experience is not worth the end. It's a
Actually,
hmm,
uh,
हाँ हाँ बोल.
I that same thing was a little annoying in The Edge of Sleep too. जब मार्किप्लायर बोलता है कि he might find some hints in his nightmares, उसके बाकी लोग उसको मना कर देते. They don't believe him. They say that it's too ridiculous. But at
हाँ.
the same time, सब सोने से मर जा रहे हैं उनके पूरे वर्ल्ड में चारों तरफ. वो ridiculous नहीं है. And they say कि हाँ उसके जो nightmare वाली theory that's ridiculous. And they don't even, and also at that point they don't know what to do about it. But they refuse to believe कि हाँ उसके nightmares कुछ useful हो सकते हैं. Ultimately they do try to go with it, but it was still a little annoying कि they were finding it difficult to believe कि उसके nightmares would be useful in this scenario.
Right. Hmm. And like that's a trope I cannot get through. And talking about frustrating, you remember the discussion we had about Dune a few months ago?
Yes.
Both of us were hating on Dune.
Yes.
Uh, so those are the new Dune movies.
Mm,
Eons ago,
mm,
another filmmaker made uh, a Dune film in 1984.
Dune
Yeah,
is based on books, right?
yeah,
So that original Dune was also made based on the books.
huh.
How old are the books? Ah,
They're from the previous century.
oh,
Hmm. तुझे लगा recent books है?
huh.
I think they're. I'm pretty sure they're pre-Star Wars, although I'm not sure.
Hmm. It's interesting.
Okay, Dune is a story I'm not at all invested in. Like I watched the film by the new guy. Don't know how to pronounce Denis. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll just call the new Dunes. So yeah, it featured the story, and I honestly don't feel very interested in the story. It's like not interesting at all to me. There are some visually interesting scenes, and I would argue that it's not even that visually interesting. Uh, Now, this 1984 Dune was directed by a certain David Lynch.
Where have I heard that name?
This is one of my favorite filmmakers. He made Twin Peaks.
Oh, right.
So, one of the weirdest filmmakers made his interpretation of Dune, and this is one of his most infamous films. And he absolutely hates this film.
He himself hates this film.
Yes. So what happened was that this was I think it was his first, and I think I'm assuming it's the only ever sort of big studio project he ever did. And so uh, what he had, he wanted to make a long film,
Mm,
but the studio did not allow him to, and I'm assuming it's a studio, and there are lots of restrictions, and David Lynch does not sound like a guy at all who works well with restrictions. Restrictions for producers can be a great thing sometimes, but like uh, this, not with David Lynch.
Mm.
Like he is a guy who needs absolute freedom. He's weird enough. So he like he hates this film. I was really curious about this movie. And like he hates this film partly because uh, he sees it as his failure to stand his ground.
Mm.
He says that he agrees that there are some decent parts of the movies, sure, but as like it's as a whole, it's a bad film. It has a cult following, sort of, that film. And I agree, it's not a good movie.
Like to 1986 bola, right?
84.
That's 84. So, and it is a sci-fi movie mostly, right? It takes place in another planet, from what I remember.
Yes,
हम्म, उसका एक मेजर पार्ट आई थिंक वर्म्स होता है वो जो सैंड वर्म्स होता है
right.
हाउ डिड दे पुल इट ऑफ एट दैट एज
I mean, some would argue that special effects was much more interesting before CGI came along. A lot of people just romanticize that era of special effects. Have you ever watched Corridor 2? Like watching those people react to old films makes you realize the charm of special effects in old films.
which movie you were referring to corridor
Corridor Crew, it's a YouTube channel. It's a but like on like they have this popular series where these VFX artists react to VFX and it's like VFX or special effects in films.
I'm not
Uh,
don't know that
so yeah, the like one of the charms of old special effects is figuring out creative ways to do it. I've not watched that channel in a long time, but if you feel curious, I recommend that. Uh, क्योंकि it's almost too simple with CGI. You just outsource your w- work to someone else to be like for it to be done in post, and it's almost thoughtless. Almost like it's a little too thoughtless, and people have started to notice that in the recent Marvel films, where the CGI is just getting really dull and thought like is what thoughtless.
mm.
तो yes, उस time में they don't really use CGI as we do today. Uh, they use special effects like strings and puppets and stuff like that. Like you know what Star Wars looks like, right?
Yeah, they used actual props, right? Toy
Huh. Like
spacecrafts and stuff.
like they pretty much use like illusions to like actual illusions to make things appear certain way. So like Star Wars came way before this Dune film, and honestly, it looks less technically impressive than Star Wars, like much less. Star Wars was revolutionary in that way. Like it like really revolutionized special effects and like so I went into this film expecting a bad film, but Uh, I was also expecting to find it at least charming and like liking it better than the recent Dune films. So, like, one of the things that makes this film bad is that it's both the two Dune films we just watched recently, condensed into one 2.5 hour package. That does not work at all. Like, I do feel that the Dune film, I remember the first Dune film being sort of a drag. Like, I don't, but it's like this is still way too little time to finish that story. What ends up being happening is that it's fine halfway till the uh, midpoint almost, and the second half, which covers the second movie we watched, that's rushed. Like, that's absurdly rushed. It's like the they completely abandoned the project, like all hopes for it. Like you can really feel it come radiating from that movie, the feeling of abandonment. It just takes huge leaps in stories in the story and like just it's does not make much sense after that point. But until then, it was still not that great a film, but I kind of enjoyed it. And uh, part of what I like better about uh, David Lynch's interpretation is, first of all, like like it's the voice of David Lynch, and I like the voice of David Lynch. That's the first reason. uh,
Like you mean literal voice or what?
Nay, like it's an like I like how David Lynch sees the world, how he interprets the world. It resonates with me, and so naturally that's one of the reasons. And uh, it's uh, it's unfair, sort a little unfair to say this, but uh, the new Dune films don't feel like that the filmmaker has a voice of his own. Like, and it almost takes itself too seriously. Like, uh, it it ends up giving you that icky feeling you get from teenage dramas that take themselves too seriously.
Mm,
Like,
Can you can you give an example of another show?
uh, I not a show, but imagine a couple in school who think that they're the love, like each other's love of their lives. Like,
Mm.
it would give you an icky feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's like it gives me that kind of feeling.
Mm.
Uh, and like watching David Lynch's Dune, which is more slight, which is which is goofier. Like it takes itself less seriously. I realized that Dune, in its concept, pretty much sounds goofy to begin with. Like they have suits with built-in toilets and they dance on sand to avoid worms from eating them.
Okay, about the worm thing, I thought that was actually little cool.
नहीं मैं worms की
Okay,
बात
yeah.
नहीं कर रहा हूँ. I'm talking about the weird dance they do.
Yeah. It was something, right? कि उनको regular patterns पे नहीं चल सकते और the worm
Yes.
recognizes it. They have to work.
And you remember that bald man, the villain from Dune?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, the
That
intimidating guy.
weird. Yeah.
Yeah, जो black tar से निकलता है. He is so goofy in this film. I really enjoyed him. Like वो अंडे की तरह फ्लोट करता रहता है पूरे हर जगह जहाँ भी कहीं भी, and he looks hideous, absolutely hideous. Uh, Wait, I will send you a GIF if I can find like yeah, visually it does not look. I sent it, shared it with
What?
you.
Wait,
He is heavily featured in the film, and I love it.
I
You,
did not expect the movie to look like this.
uh,
Is that an actual scene in that movie? He
हाँ,
just starts floating up.
and इस scene के बाद he's pretty much always floating around. That's the introduction scene. Uh, so yeah, like I am glad I watched this film, even though it was bad. There were certain qualities of it.
Actually, I have to add something to this. Speaking of restrictions in movies or shows, I guess, in The Edge of Sleep, there was supposed to be a scene जिसमें वो लोग आउट ऑफ टाउन, मतलब उनको अभी थोड़ा थोड़ा आइडिया होना शुरू होता है कि व्हाट इज हैपनिंग, कि हाँ लोग स्लीप में मर रहे हैं, बट दे हैव नॉट कंफर्म्ड इट येट. They have the suspicion, but they have not confirmed it. And this was supposed to be a scene कि वो आउट ऑफ टाउन ड्राइव करते हुए जा रहे हैं और उनकी कार क्रैश हो जाती है somehow. एंड देन कार क्रैश होने के बाद मार्किप्लायर को एक दूसरा एक पर्सन रहता है, उसको वार्न करना होता है कि शी मस्ट नॉट फेल asleep or she will die. So he would call her, she would pick up but ignore him and say that she is about to go to sleep. तो माँ की प्यारा को फिर भागते हुए उसके घर तक जाना होता है, and is that running scene की he tries to make it to her before she falls asleep. ठीक है. This was what was supposed to happen, but it turns out कि उनके क्रू के पास उतना वो नहीं था, फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी नहीं थी कि they could enact a car crash. It was too cumbersome.
Hmm.
So what they end up doing कि उनकी कार खराब हो जाती है.
Okay.
Now in making कि उनकी कार खराब हो जाती है, and they also have to confirm this theory that people are falling dead in their sleep. They have to get to a town जहाँ पे वो एक एक बिल्डिंग में जाके चेक करता है कि हाँ ये आदमी सोने गया, ये मर गया, ये सोने गया, the whole town is dead. Okay. So they had to tie together both of those scenes, and what ends up happening कि वो टाउन के अंदर जाते हैं, वो देखते कि हाँ सब अपार्टमेंट के अंदर अपने सोए थे, मर गए. देन मार्केट calls that lady to tell her not to fall asleep. She ignores him and उसकी कार वहाँ पे खराब हो जाती है, उनकी जो कार होती है वो. But at the same time we can see it in the background कि और भी कार्स रखी हुई है सब उस टाउन में, but Mark ignores it और he starts sprinting towards her home. और जो दूसरा बंदा है वो 20 मिनट तक बैठ के अपनी कार सुधार रहा है वहाँ पे टाउन के बीच में. सो इट्स जस्ट अ गूफी सीन. इट मेक्स नो सेंस कि जब सब लोग मर चुके उस टाउन की, इट इज क्लियर व्हाई नॉट टेक देयर कार एंड जस्ट गो. बट दे वांटेड टू ऐड अ रनिंग सीन कि हाँ मार्क भागते हुए जा रहा है उसके घर, तक जाने की कोशिश कर रहा है, बट क्योंकि उसका घर है सो इट हैड टू बी इन द मिडल ऑफ टाउन,
Mm-hmm.
और इफ देयर वाज अ क्रैश देन यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड कि हाँ वो कार ठीक नहीं हो सकती, बट देयर वाज नो क्रैश। तो फिर वो बंदा, दूसरा बंदा कार को ठीक करने का ट्राई कर रहा है व्हाइल देयर आर अदर कार्स नियर बाय।
And
एंड
in cars, like he's a
आई मीन वो कोई अपार्टमेंट से आके ले सकते हैं राइट, दे जस्ट सॉ, दे जस्ट वेंट टू चेक कि हाँ ये लोग अपने स्लीप में मर चुके हैं, देन जे कैसे घर से कीज पिक लेके आ जाओ, आके कोई भी कार चालू कर देते।
right, right.
So it was like a product of the same thing that they could not afford to, like एक कार क्रैश को इनैक्ट करके दिखाए वो। एंड ऑन ऑन दैट नोट, जो ये शो है एज ऑफ स्लीप, इट वाज बेस्ड ऑन अ पॉडकास्ट फ्रॉम मार्किप्लायर, वही एज ऑफ स्लीप। एंड जो लोगों ने पॉडकास्ट सुना वो ये बोल रहे थे कि हाँ इसकी स्टोरी काफ़ी ज़्यादा रश्ड है इस सीरीज़ में, क्योंकि जो पॉडकास्ट है उसमें बहुत धीरे धीरे एक कैरेक्टर को एक्सप्लोर करता है, धीरे धीरे ये इनैक्ट होता है सब प्रॉपरली, बट जो शो है उसमें बहुत रश कर दिया है पूरा सब कुछ।
Wait, it's based on a podcast, like a
यस,
fictional podcast.
यस, यस।
जिसमें Markiplier है.
हाँ।
Ah, have you listened to the podcast?
नो आई हैव नॉट।
Ah,
ये कंपैरिजन देखा था मैंने पॉडकास्ट में, काफ़ी अच्छा तरीके से सबके कैरेक्टर्स एक्सप्लेन हुए थे, बट सीरीज में थोड़ा रश्ड है वो सब।
okay. Hmm. Interesting, interesting.
सो वो मेरे को वही समझ में है कि हाँ कई बार जो कंसेप्ट होता है साउंड्स गुड इन सम अदर मीडिया, बट उसको एज अ सीरीज एज अ मूवी कन्वर्ट करने में इट्स रूइंड।
We talked about it last time as well, right? And like with Look Back, I was talking about it.
या
Like,
या बट इन दैट केस वो तो बस ये कहता ना कि उसका मांगा वाज बेटर।
no, my point was that it's not a bad anime. It's not a bad adaptation either. I just don't see a point of that adaptation because that story was meant for a manga. If I had not read the manga, I wouldn't have minded the adaptation. But after reading the manga, you realize that it was specifically made for the pages of a manga. Like how the story is designed is meant to be told in panels. So yeah, in that way, it does not make sense. So I read two more one shots by that same author. One is Yogen no Nayuta, and the other is Goodbye Eri.
what what are they about?
I I forget. Have you watched read or read? You have read Chainsaw Man, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, mm, Yogen no Nayuta is I don't like it's about this uh, girl who, when she's born, like she's prophesized to destroy the world.
Oh,
She has an older brother, and there's this entire sort of group of people who thinks that they should kill her. The government should kill her, and
wait,
uh,
wait. What was the name?
Yogen
Yogen?
no Nayu.
Oh, I remember another anime which I watched, which had a similar concept, I think, which was Kyokai no Kanata.
Yokai no Kanata. What does it
Kyokai
translate?
no
Kyokai no
Beyond the Boundary.
Beyond the
I
Boundary.
I think it had a similar premise. I might be wrong. It's been a while I've watched it.
Interesting. I'll tell you what the basic premise क्या है इसका. It's about this. Uh, so like she has a older brother, much older than her when she's born, and a father.
Mm.
Her mother dies during the birth, and sh- she's very not human-like. Like she does not speak properly. She speaks in words, short, like not sentences. You know, have the father is killed at some point, probably assuming from one of the people from that group who want her dead. So her
Mm.
brother grows up to take care of her. She still keeps wreaking sort of havoc, killing animals and cats and stuff.
Oh,
Yeah.
does she have some special powers or something?
Uh, and I think she also ends up being, uh, at least she ends up being a character in Chainsaw Man too.
Wait, actual character in Chainsaw Man.
But not with the same story. Like, yeah, the uh, Fujimoto just ignores the story that happened in Yogi, but just reuses the character. तुझे याद होगा Chainsaw Man के वो जो पहला आर्क खत्म होता है उसके बाद the control devil is transferred to a little girl which Denji adopts.
I do not remember anything
So
about
it's
Chainsaw Man.
that character. Anyway, I don't have much more to say about this. The other
Yeah.
manga I read which I liked was Goodbye Eri by again by Fujimoto. Uh, this was released a few years ago. A boy, uh, like a guy who's in school, typical anime school age. He
Mm.
his mother is dying, and his mother gifts him a smartphone and asks him to make a movie about her, like record every moment until she dies.
Mm.
And he records all these moments capturing her memory.
Mm.
And one day, when she's about to, like, uh, the father knows that, like, she's in the hospital at this point. He tells the kid, "Okay, this is probably the last time we are going to see your mom, and she wants you to record her till her last moment."
Mm.
This is in a car outside the hospital.
Mm.
He gets out of the car and runs away from the hospital, starts running away from the hospital in the background, and it blasts.
The car blasts.
The hospital blasts.
What? What?
And it is revealed that it's a movie a bunch of students are seeing. And a presenter comes and says that this was a documentary by this student about his mother. And we realize that his mother actually was dying and she's dead now. And all the students and everyone find the teachers find it very distasteful that he ended the film with a random blast for no reason.
वेट वेट एक सेकंड कौन रिवील करता है कि वो आई एम वेरी कंफ्यूज थोड़ा पहले से आके एक्सप्लेन
It's
कर कि
being
व्हाट वाज
played
रिवील
in a festival, sort of a school festival के लिए वो play कर रहे हैं among other performances. He
कि उसकी
submitted
मदर ब्लास्ट हु इज वाचिंग दिस शो
the school students from school.
व्हाई आर दे एट द हॉस्पिटल
They're not at the hospital. They're at the school.
तो ये पूरा प्ले आउट हो रहा है एक
We were until now we were watching a movie.
अच्छा कैमरे के थ्रू
Yes,
वो
like it's
उसके
we have
सेलफोन
watched.
के कैमरे के थ्रू
हाँ, उसने अपने सेल फोन से मूवी बनाई है. He edited it together and submitted it to this film festival at his school.
हाँ
We realize that it is real, and like he even gets scolded by his teacher how about how distasteful it is.
वेट 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 वो स्टूडेंट को पता था वो ब्लास्ट होने वाला है
नहीं क्या न, हाँ उसे
तो
उसने तो बनाई है मूवी.
सो ही
It's
इंटेंशनली
not a real
प्लान
blast.
व्हाट वाज द ब्लास्ट
उसने पोस्ट में उसने बस डाल दिया ब्लास्ट.
एडिट टाइप था
हाँ.
ओह ओके नाउ कंटिन्यू आई सी व्हाट इज
Yes. उसे डांट पड़ती है how distasteful it was to treat his mother's death like this. And this is the beginning of the manga. And it's like not a very long story. It's I'll be and like there's a story that follows after that. Like, this is the only time I've ever teared up reading a manga.
oh
I've never
I'm
had
actually
that.
curious
I've never
what is continue
I've never had this experience while reading anything, let alone a manga. Like like that was a first for me and a very unique experience. Like it also like it depends on how invested I was, and I think it being short is also plays a role in it. I, I don't know. It's just that was a deeply
can you explain why was the blast added was it explained
like the teacher asks him why he did that. He says he just thought it was cool.
there is no other explanation
I mean, there are things to read into as you read the manga, like between the lines and stuff. Uh, yeah, that's his explanation. Yeah, it was a great story. Uh, he this was also released around the same time as uh, the as the look back one shot, like around 2022. Uh, and yeah, like this story sort of resonated with me much more than look back, which was also a good one shot. Yeah, so that's it about it. It's a good one shot. You seem to have watched Don't Look Up.
Yes.
which also apparently had a deep impact on you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. Yeah.
In what way? Ah,
Hmm. I I don't know actually is the specific reason. It was just a really enjoyable movie.
it's a political satire, and it's like very on the nose about Trump. It's a nice, decent film, in my opinion. It got really uh, polarizing for like just the amount of people who enjoyed it made people hate this film because it also won some awards. It is very on the nose with its messaging. That precedent in this, that precedent and that scientist in the film pretty much are stand-ins for Trump and Elon Musk. That's what they seem like.
Well, I did not make any of those connections, but personally, what I liked the most was like how we as humans generally work with some disturbing news or something. Yeah, some serious topic or anything. Like the head of NASA, as soon as they tell her an asteroid is heading to Earth, which poses an extinction threat, her first response is let's not be dramatic. And they were stating like facts. They were not saying their own personal opinions that we are going to extinct. They were just saying they found an asteroid which is headed directly to Earth, and its size is enough to cause an extinction. But she immediately, that other scientist from NASA, just immediately goes into denial and assumes they made a wrong assumption.
Hmm.
And even with others, this was जो न्यूज़ का मीडिया थी, when they hear this story they are not serious at all about it. They are like हाँ ऐसी story तो हर 2 दिन में आती रहती है.
Because
That's
we
what they
have
say.
like it's also about this uh, climate change thing. It's supposed to be a metaphor for climate change. That hmm, a lot of people have this attitude towards climate change. Other than people who completely deny it for some reason, people have this attitude towards stuff like this that it's not something they need to think about it. And like people who make a deal out of it are being too dramatic because
Mm,
such things resolve themselves. This is the attitude people usually have.
mm,
Like, in my opinion, that's not how it works. Things don't resolve themselves. Like, people, you, like, as a society, like, a lot of times you have to mm, show that you care about, you're concerned about something for something to be done about it.
mm,
So it's in that way, it's just standard. Like the asteroid thing is supposed to be a metaphor for the climate change uh, arguments.
and also इसमें एक चीज और वो समझ में आती है कि these days हम इतने ज़्यादा क्या बोलेंगे इसको आउटरेजियस न्यूज़ आती रहती है ज़्यादा हाइपरबोलिक न्यूज़ जिसको बोलेंगे.
जैसे
एंड हाइपरबोल मतलब बहुत ज़्यादा मीडिया में फ्लोट करता है राइट. जैसे यूट्यूब में जाएगा तो देखो हर क्लिक बेट्स होते हैं या फिर कुछ छोटी सी चीज़ होती है उसको बहुत ज़्यादा एग्जैजरेट करके बताते हैं.
right.
तो उसके कारण इफ यू सी कोई हाइपरबोलिक क्लिक बेट यू डायरेक्टली अज्यूम कि इट्स प्रोबेबली नॉट ट्रू, और उसको एक्सैजरेट करके बताया जा रहा है एक छोटी सी चीज को टू
I
गेट
think
क्लिक्स.
there's a degree of who you put your faith in when you think about media, because I'll give you an example. I know nothing about the science of coffee, but everyone around the world has collectively decided to put all their coffee faith into this one man, James Hoffman. Everybody uh, in the world goes to his YouTube channel for reliable information about coffee. He has somehow developed that reputation for himself. Uh, so, uh, similarly, like a person who watches James Hoffman, a person who like, mostly watches James Hoffman, considers that to be the most reliable, would also be more skeptical about anything else. Like, like it, you have to earn that reliability, right?
Hmm.
So, like it does not really become a matter of verifying which information to trust or not trust. It's it becomes a matter of who do you generally trust.
Yes. And in cases जहाँ पे the one you trust is actually biased himself, then it might create a problem. Because जैसे तू climate change ने बोला, right? Now if some people follow some person who's against, personally against climate change, or against, I mean इतना उसका ऐसे बोलता है कि it is not something to be worried about, then everybody who follows him would just assume he's right, and it's nothing to be worried about, and they won't do any personal research on this stuff.
Hmm.
Like it was, this was not a problem years ago.
Yeah,
The fake news and the amount of skepticism we need or we have these days. पहले कुछ कोई बोलता था, we just assume कि हाँ likely सही बोल रहा होगा,
सच
but
में.
now
I mean, okay, so there's this. Uh, I'm assuming you're talking about the internet, but the I feel that internet is older than that. क्योंकि misinformation comes with the internet, right? क्योंकि before the internet, your source of information is these big media houses, which are supposed to be reliable because their entire uh, they need to appear reliable. Arguably, they aren't, but like it's, they are also politically considered, usually considered biased. I do not have any experience with them. I've never used them for any sort of information.
but
But
even internet पे भी I don't think पहले उतना hyperbole या इतना exaggeration prominent था जितना अभी है.
I guess ever since internet started becoming a place to host your career,
Hmm.
like hmm, you have more incentive to be uh, a famous person on the internet, and with being famous comes people having faith in your words.
बट उसका प्रॉब्लम ये आती है कि डोंट ऑलवेज नीड टू बी करेक्ट एज लॉन्ग एज यू अलाइन विथ certain beliefs. अगर if you go on the internet, you don't generally, I would assume कि you don't think कि हाँ if this person is reasonable or not. You think whether this person agrees with my own beliefs which I had or not.
For a yeah, for a huge, huge part, uh, that's what you're looking for.
एंड फिर उसके हिसाब से आई थिंक यूट्यूब में रिकमेंडेशन और इन जनरल तुम्हें मीडिया मिलने लग जाता है.
Right, that's something I've been wondering about. Because based, like you're not very interested in politics, right? Maybe I'm not that informed about it either. I just recently started reading a little about whatever is happening. So I don't know anything. But I've realized this disparity in core, like in political beliefs that sort of also reflect your core values and beliefs. It's like uh, a disparity in that between me and just my friends. That, that idea is uh, weird because when you get along so well, you do not think about the values that might separate you because you would think that they have to be similar in order for you to get along. Because those values will reflect in whatever you do. I to like what I was essentially wondering about was a good, uh, a decent, not like that great, but a decent, uh, look into what their beliefs are and how their values work would be to just scroll through their social media, like the recommendations they personally get for a while, because that not only reflects your political beliefs and values, that pretty much also forms them.
Yeah. And like on that note, we call who we common concern है I guess कि like for YouTube for example उनके पास तुम्हारा पूरा डेटा है and not just कि तुम्हारे likes और dislikes क्या है like based on your feeds they can I think pretty accurately predict कि ओवरऑल तुम्हारी पर्सनालिटी किस टाइप से एज यू सेड कि यू कैन जज फ्रॉम रिकमेंडेशन हाउ अ पर्सन would be in that
Hmm.
sense कि those companies now know like have this sufficient information to predict a lot of things about you or predict भी नहीं होता to know a lot of things about you.
I'm sure they do, because a part of it is also like a, a part of it like, that also reflects in their advertising, right?
Yeah,
Like their advertising is so eerily familiar at times that it almost feels like they're listening to you.
yeah,
So there's that I forget what I was saying. Hmm. What are your political beliefs, Sattu?
I have no political beliefs. I
Do
don't
you
follow politics.
do you? I mean, I'm sure you lean. I mean, you will lean towards one thing once you get slightly informed about it.
I'm not informed about it in the slightest.
हाँ मैं वही बोल
I've heard कि
हम्म
अमेरिका में there's something like the left wing and the right wing,
हम्म
but I don't know what those mean. What is the left wing and what is the right wing?
uh, there's not a lot of meaning to it. Like it means different things for for different people. So like I said, pretty much loses all meaning. Right wing is considered to be capitalist, conservative, and by many racist and discriminatory, uh, homophobic and stuff, which does not make sense to club all those qualities into one. It shouldn't be that simple, but it is how it is around here. That's how they tend to be. And the left wing is supposed to be the liberals who believe more towards more in equality and stuff like that, that everybody should be treated equally, uh, and uh, they have economic values that are in line with that as well. Like, mm, what like so the government essentially takes uh, taxes from everyone in the country, in a country, right? And the purpose of those taxes is to uh, ensure ensure that that every man is not for himself. Like it's sort of leaning towards the taxes. The general idea of taxes is sort of leaning towards the idea that you're living in a civilization. Everybody has chosen to do their part. Some end up being richer because of that, and some people have to, someone has to, yeah, do less fortunate, like, like not less fortunate, this things they wouldn't like as much, both as an experience and financially.
Hmm.
So the taxes are sort of a way to divide the income of everyone into among everyone else, because taxes are used for the benefit of the country, right? To build infrastructure and stuff. And so like that is one of the reasons that uh, the idea of taxes is very central to the argument of who you want to vote. One of the problems in America right now is that the tax system seems to be designed in a way that it's fairly easy for rich people to pay their fair share of taxes. Like, uh, I'm not too sure about how it works, but like that's a problem. And the problem that is with the right wing, that people, the, the Trump being the president. A part of that, among other things, is that he is a pretty much a rich dude who is now running for president. He was a businessman, and he has a strong bias to like preserve the system to be as it is. Like like from what I know, that he has even like it's been pointed out to him pehle ki his even he doesn't pay his fair share of taxes. I think at some point uh, the taxes just ऐसे देते हैं, of rich people were leaked by a government official. So like he was asked about this thing, the way he gets out of paying taxes, and he said something that I feel is very concerning for a presidential candidate to say. He said that that just means that he's smart.
Wait, he can avoid taxes? That means he is smart.
Like he's saving money and therefore like he's doing a smart thing.
Hmm.
The idea of taxes is the benefit of everyone in society, and a president doing something as selfish as that and calling it a product of him being smart compared to all the poor people who do not do that.
That okay, that pulled out a old memory. When I read that Rich Dad Poor Dad book, I remember being really off-put by this statement by the author. He said you have to learn how to avoid taxes, and there are certain ways. And but you get into finance, you must learn how to avoid those. And that I was really weirded out by this. Like, why isn't paying taxes an important part of being in a society? Why would he try to avoid it just to be rich?
It's just a selfish thing to do. I think that book is also openly critical of uh, uh, like professions don't make you that much money. I think the uska premise कुछ ऐसा है ना, that the protagonist, who is a kid, उसके dad is a teacher at a school,
Yeah.
and उसके friend के dad is a rich businessman or something.
Yes, yes.
So, and the book actively looks down upon that guy who's a teacher.
He openly says it that I would not like to be my real dad. I would like to be my friend's dad. And like, how open
That
can you
is
be about?
a deeply problematic idea, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with.
So, I mean, and the right wing in America also tends to lean towards religion. तो
Hmm.
मैंने जो बोला कि racism, homophobia वगैरह, these exist because of Christianity, right? The idea of they it's a sin in Christianity to be anything other than straight. And uh, I do not know how racism and ended up being a part of that party. They're not. It's uh, some people try to, I'm sure that some people would try to say that they are not racist or homophobic because they have not done anything overtly racist or homophobic. But I don't think they have to do something overtly racist or homophobic to be seen as racist or homophobic. Like, uh, uh, what I was saying is that mm, I've talking about politics on this podcast, ad lib. I'm sure I'll feel good about this later. I, yeah, because I'm not really that informed on it, and I'm bound to change my opinions in some degrees as I get more informed. But these, I'm just laying out my thoughts for now. In like it's similarly concerning in India as well. I think your opinion on what goes on in India matters more than America is, of course. That's where you're voting. That's where you live. And uh, uh, in some ways, I would say that in some ways, India has a similar situation with Modi that America has with Trump. In some ways, not like completely similar. And uh, uh, like you know how the Conservative Party in America is like heavily caters to Christians, right?
Yes.
Like, which is the majority in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate that about in a political system in India that when like they were doing this Ram Mandir thing, right?
Hmm.
They presented it as like they were doing something for the country, and which like blew my mind. कि ठीक है कोई ऐसी छोटी मोटी सी कोई ग्रुप ट्राई कर रहा है टू गेट टू सम पीपल एट अ लोकल लेवल आई कैन सी बट एट अ नेशनल लेवल दे वर डूइंग सो ओपनली कि हाँ ये मंदिर अंदिर का काम कर रहे हैं प्रेजेंट इट लाइक दे आर डूइंग समथिंग ग्रैंड फॉर द कंट्री while it's only just beneficial to a certain this Hindu group. It's mind blowing मुझे समझ नहीं है कि हाँ इसको
Like
लोग देखते हैं and they just let it go.
I BJP in that uh I feel really grossed out by whatever BJP stands for because
Mm,
okay uh, like, uh a lot of people around us support BJP, like, and that's fairly common in uh, uh, our country, I guess, because a lot of younger generation does not like BJP. I mean, a lot does, a surprising amount does, but at least people around us, like people who do not support BJP, that like their family still is very supporting of BJP.
mm,
Because anyway, uh, Pranat also is supportive of BJP. Like, like, yes. Uh,
We should hear his opinion on after this podcast. After he listens to this podcast.
I mean, I will try to uh, give an estimate of what I what he says. I could be wrong or incomplete, but he uh, he's not. Uh, I'll make it clear that he does not abide, feel that Modi is great like other BJP supporters do. Like he does not support the weird discrimination thing. Some friends of mine even support that, like the anti-Muslim garbage. Uh, like there is, he believes, in my understanding, that it's the best we have right now. Like between the opposition and Modi, Modi is obviously the best choice because, in his words, he has successfully been able to put us on the map of the
Mm,
world. I It's really difficult for me to even consider that by looking past oh, the the oppression and discrimination he stands for.
mm,
Okay, how like think about China, how successful an economy that seems to be that it is, but it is still a heavily criticized government, and like by the looks of it, like the changes that Modi has been trying to make with the media limitations and stuff, he wants to make a government more akin to China's, where he has a lot of power over whatever happens in the country.
mm.
But is that prosperity worth all that? Batsy, I have asked him that question, specifically this question with the China analogy, and he says that it's worth it. That I like, I don't know, I cannot get behind any government that actively oppresses a section of the society, no matter how good they do as an economy or don't. I mean, I don't know how. Like, I'm not too sure of how Modi does like as how well good Modi has been to India's economy or कुछ भी, क्योंकि yeah, I don't, there is argument about it, there is ambiguity about it, people argue about it whether it's been good or bad, so I'm certain that it's not as clear.
Mm,
And I also know that however good he has been to the country's economy वगैरह, I don't think that would ever justify his other values for me.
mm,
I mean, I wouldn't even know if it's his actual values or not. Okay, that's easy to do for. just to gain power. Like they're just very actively, overtly, pretty much. They are overtly uh, anti-Muslim and whatever. There has been a surge of propaganda media in the past few years,
Mm.
and a lot of it is just anti-Muslim.
And not just Muslim. I think कोई न्यूज़ मीडिया उनके अगेंस्ट भी जब बोलने का ट्राई करती है, जनरली आई सीन कि a lot of the times they get shut down or something or other happens to them. Like I remember कि मेरे पापा बोलते थे कि हाँ ये वाला न्यूज़ चैनल सिर्फ उनके अगेंस्ट बोलता है बीजेपी के, एंड इवेंचुअली इट स्टॉप्ड हैपनिंग. जो जो न्यूज़ चैनल उनके अगेंस्ट बोलते थे उनको मे बी दे तो कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम आई उनके साथ कि they stopped getting popularity or they themselves realized कि वो work out speaking against them.
Huh? They like uh, okay. They have been taking steps actively against democracy. Like I talked about moving towards the being more similar to China, right?
Mm.
Which pretends to be a democracy, but it isn't. Everybody knows that. Uh, so the, there have been multiple blatantly obvious instances जहाँ पर uh, it's been horrible. Like okay, it's just BJP has taken steps that are just destructive of the democracy. Like it just like मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ. ऐसा काफी हुआ ऐसा पर मैं एग्जांपल देता हूँ इंदौर का. अभी इलेक्शंस हुए थे ना,
Mm.
and from what I've heard, a lot of politicians from whatever opposing party they had in any given area, they uh, coerced those individuals into joining BJP. So in during these elections, I was going to vote for Congress,
Okay,
but
that
but I, the problem with it was that there was no Congress in Indore. Like they BJP had coerced the candidate for Congress in Indore to join BJP. And like there have been instances of like I'm sure they get a lot of money for it, but I feel that there's also uh, a threat to not uh, doing as the party tells you to. Like there have been instances of people getting unfairly imprisoned in such cases. हाँ तू क्या बोल रहा था?
okay, okay. If BJP is not doing well, you think to vote for Congress, but at the same time you don't know okay, if Congress would be any better. So is
Look,
that really a solution to it?
when I was voting for Congress, The thought wasn't. I've said this before to while talking with Batsy as well that it's at least like पहले तो Congress is not as like not actively oppressive like BJP is. Like that they just have a weird cult like Hinduism history. Like, uh, but what I'm primarily voting for in that case is a balance in democracy. Like, you know, it was, it wasn't, it's not just about who is the press, like prime minister, right? Yeah, like, uh, it's also about the proportion of the parties that are involved in the legislation of the country. I don't know if I'm using the right word.
I just think we are using the right terms.
So anyway, you get the idea, right?
Uh,
I'm voting for that balance.
okay, actually, I do agree with your opinion on this that there should be equal proportion of the ruling party and the opposing party. If there is one of too much of one, then that would definitely be bad.
Yeah. Well, like that's like something I have been deeply concerned. I had been deeply concerned about for a few months when I was getting starting to read about politics in India. तो इस अभी इलेक्शंस चल रहे हैं यहाँ पे ट्यूसडे को इलेक्शन डे एंड इट्स गोइंग टू बी अ डे ऑफ
Mm.
वेंसडे को there's a there's supposed to be a lab meeting. The professor of like who's the supervisor of that lab, last night he sent a message on the lab meetings group that uh, he understands that not like lab meeting is right after the day of the election day, right? The day straight after that. He says that he understands that it's uh, everyone might not be up to it right after election day. A lot of people would be feeling anxious, worried, and distracted because that's how much people are have been worried about elections over here. Is at one point there's the absurdity of a man charged with so many sexual assault cases or like being running like not only running for president but like having there's a decent chance that he might win. So there's the anxiety of that.
He's already won before.
Yes, but people didn't realize how problematic he was when he immediately won back then. तब उसके बाद से he has had this make America great again kind of campaign, right? Very similar to what Modi has, the weird Akhand Bharat kind of thing, what BJP has. I don't know about Modi, but
अच्छे दिन
BJP.
आ गए.
Huh?
छेते नहाने वाला है ऐसा।
हाँ, yes, that, like, he has very similar views on, like, uh, bringing India back to its prosperity. Uh, yeah, yes, people have been really worried about the elections over here. So, I was just giving you an idea of how worried they are.
So are you allowed? I think you're not allowed to vote
Of
in
course not.
US.
Only citizens vote. So, like, it's a huge part of campaign this time is uh, to making sure that voters turn up.
Mm,
A lot of people don't vote, right?
mm.
That's going to be a huge factor in it.
Do they have the same voting system as India? That you go to a
And
center and
हाँ वैसे ही काम कर रहा है. I'm not sure how it works if they have. I think they have electric ballots too. Hmm. Anyway, I think भाई तू host है. Why don't you stop इतना लंबा political discussion?
I think बता रहा सुन. It was interesting. I had not much idea about politics, but
Hmm.
I did want to be informed about it, so I kept it going.
Some would say कि मैंने तुझे एक side bias कर दिया with a single biased opinion. भटूरा आएगा तेरा opinion change करेगा चिंता मत कर.
When we
तो भी
bring Bhatura for another collab, we should definitely talk about politics.
yes, I actually was planning to have him and Yash together over
Oh,
uh, soon.
nice,
Uh,
nice.
so anyway, let's get back to the rest of the media. I watched this anime called Memories. It's an anthology like of three short films. Fairly short film is this really interesting horror animation, which is rare to see in animation, horror as a genre. But this is a really well made uh, uh, short film in the horror
What,
genre.
what, what is the premise?
Have you watched Alien?
I think, yeah, I think I have watched it. They are in a spaceship and this alien baby, I think, or egg or something comes into the ship or something,
हाँ,
right?
like, ये उस type की film है हाँ. So like it's consider it an interpretation of that, but with the beauty of it being an anime.
Hmm. So it's based on space and stuff.
Like these space garbage men get these signals, get the signal from a abandoned uh, place in like floating garbage in space, and they go in to explore, and the film ensues. उसके बाद की film which people do not seem to like that much compared to others. The other films in this uh, trilogy of short films, but I really liked this one. It's like I uh, this man who works at a lab, some biological lab, eats a medicine because of which he starts releasing this weird smell. उसकी वजह से उसके आसपास सब लोग मरने लग जाते हैं.
Oh, and
And
not him,
yeah,
just people
like
around him.
the he realizes that the medicine he ate was a military के ने बनवाई हुई मिलिट्री ने बनवाई थी वो medicine as a bioweapon, uh, and like initially when people don't realize that everybody is dying because of him, they ask him, because that's the only person they see there, they ask him to bring some documents to them. And the entire film is about this Japanese salaryman sort of guy going through all the absurdity of the world, like the everybody dying around him, and uh, even the military trying to stop him, and he's completely aloof to the whole situation. He doesn't even know that everybody is dying because of him. He's making his way to just deliver these documents.
That that sounds really fun. I might watch it. What was his name?
Memories. उसमें 3 films है.
Oh,
This is the second one.
oh, interesting.
I
So
really
they're
like.
disconnected. Their stories are not connected, right?
They're not connected. And there's a third one about fascism. Well, okay, that's it about that. Uh, you watched The Intern.
Okay, so I have not watched it. I only watched the first half of the first episode today. It's a,
Hey, it's a show?
it's a series.
Oh, I was thinking of
And
the Robert De Niro movie. There's a movie called The Intern. No, The Intern. I think it's called The Intern. To both.
so the
Is it
premise is
about an old
this.
man getting an
Yes, it is
internship?
about an old
So
man.
again one of those cases where they make a sh show out of a movie that was somewhat successful.
Oh, so yeah, there's this old man who recent, not recently, but like a couple of years ago, lost his wife, and now he's trying to fill in that
Void.
gap in his life. Yeah, to fill in, spend his time. He finds this internship and decides to go with it. And the story ensues that okay, that is a corporate world, and he's just jumped in as an elderly man, and how it plays out. That was kind of interesting, I guess. I didn't watch a lot of it.
By the way, do you want to change your location in case your parents want that room?
But
ल- लेट हो रहा है ना वहाँ पर. That's your parents' room, right?
no, I'm at my uncle's house. There is
Oh,
people here.
अच्छा ठीक है. So, how are you liking the show?
It was quite fun until like they added this multiple of those uncomfortable scenes where other uh, elderly woman which he came across found him attractive, and there was this long sequence of them trying to flirt with him. And
You
I guess
liked
they
it,
were
didn't you?
trying to. I hated it. Completely hated it. It was fun until then, but it just felt so unnecessary for that show because I think it was supposed to be a light-hearted show, and just it just added an un, what- uncomfortable scenario which I did not find funny or anything, or just kind of ruined the mood for me.
Okay.
Other than that, it was quite fun.
उसके अलावा I watched watched did I watch? Okay, two things I watched yesterday. I'll rush through them. I watched Deadly Weapons, one of the greatest things to come out of the Godfather. It's this. I uh, I, how should I describe it to you?
I have seen
I,
the poster when I was at your place, and that poster stands out. I don't have to explain why, I guess.
it's a revenge story where this big-breasted woman takes revenge on her dead lover, avenges her dead lover by killing her, killing the gangsters who killed her lover using her breasts.
How?
I'll just let you know that she gives them sleeping pills and suffocates them with her breasts.
She can use any weapon, any other, even for suffocating, she can use a pillow.
I mean, I would like to uh, make it clear that this was always done in a setting where a pillow would conveniently be in her vicinity. It was her choice to use her
Was there,
breast to suffocate the enemies.
is, is there any reason why that would she would prefer to do that? Or it was just her way of taking it?
I think there's there's probably some kind of poetry in there that I'm missing.
Did you like the show?
Huh? The movie.
Did you? Yeah.
I watched it with Yash, and it was a fun watch. It's a short, small film. It's a good film. Uh, उसके बाद रात को like watching this film with a drink, I just continued to be drinking. उसके बाद रात तक, uh, at which point I decided to watch this sort of lonely, sad film called What Time Is It There? One of my favorite films of all time is called The Wayward Cloud by Tsai Ming Liang, a Taiwanese filmmaker. That film was sort of a sequel to this film, which I did not know at the time. So this film I loved a lot as well, and it's the kind of film that I cannot describe.
Can you explain the premise though? What is happening?
I can explain the premise, but it won't mean much to you. So there's this guy who sells watches. His father has died recently. His mother dies as well. So sorry, क्या बोल रहा हूँ मैं? Ah, no. His father has died recently, and he lives with his mother. His mother does not die, and the setting at his home is that his mother is really superstitious and uh, believes that her father is going to come back as a reincarnation or something. Uh, and she does all these rituals and stuff in order to make sure of that, which this guy does not like. Uh, and this guy, on the other hand, is recently like also sells a watch to this woman who he has a very small interaction with. He reluctantly, like, she asks for the watch that he's wearing right now, which he denies, and he reluctantly sells it to her. But and she says that she's going to Paris घूमने. तो over time, धीरे धीरे, he starts developing feelings for her through that small interaction. And I think that woman is also thinking about him, and it's a very slow, soporific film. Like you have like it's not what you typically expect out of a film, like a popular film. That's like it's truly like purely its expression.
Mm.
I will maybe I don't know if it will make sense, but I will just read the review I wrote for it this morning. Chota sa.
Mhm.
Among other things, it has this interesting dynamic of rituals and superstitions between the mother and the son. Both are longing for someone, and both become part of separate uh, rituals to synchronize with their quote loved ones unquote. Tsai's take on grieving and loneliness reflects parts of you not often reflected on screen. Between the craziness of what you think you cannot be and the futility of what you think you should be, there's an amount of bizarreness you commit to, and you do not know why.
Mm. Interesting, interesting.
So that's it. That's the films I watched. This podcast is turning out to be really long.
Yes,
Because there are
we had
still
a
games to discuss.
yes, and we had a long segment of political discussion.
And that's why I was expecting it to be go on for long today, but इतना लंबा नहीं सोचा था मैंने.
So you have played Shadow of the Colossus.
Yes. Have you heard of it?
I have watched its gameplay. This is, if you know Jacksepticeye and
Yeah.
Cowboy,
Yeah.
so it is his favorite game of all time, and he played this in his channel multiple times, I think, and watched it. I loved it when I was a gameplay. It looked very similar to Zelda games in some sense.
So I had been feeling like playing Elden Ring,
Mm,
but knew that I don't want to play it. Okay, I don't want to invest that much of my time and energy into a game.
mm,
And I don't want an open world. I don't want to have to to explore in the game. I just want to be handed enemies which sort of act like puzzles, and you have to temporarily develop a skill to beat them, like that kind of stuff. You like over time you beat them, and
mm,
I just want that part of a game, not the exploration bullshit where you might or might not have to grind and stuff.
mm.
And while researching, I realized that this genre of games, that the desire I'm getting right now, they are called boss rush games, where
Yes,
you just pretty much just have boss fights.
yes, yes.
And I came across Shadow of Colossus as a recommendation. Now, the I think the more popular Shadow of the Colossus video that Jacksepticeye has on YouTube is the new restored version of it. It's
Yeah.
originally a PS2 game, and I'm playing that. Cannot play the restored version because that's a PS4 game. तो मैं वो खेल रहा हूँ and I'm really enjoying it. It's like it's not exactly what I was initially looking for. That like the Elden Ring kind of game because these bosses are not really difficult to beat. They're just engaging enough to beat. Like you have to figure out a way to beat them. Like some of them you have to figure out creative ways to beat them. Like
How far have you, like, how many bosses have you
I think
beaten?
six bosses. I've beaten six bosses. I just beat
Oh,
that water wala.
वो बर्ड वाटर नहीं, वो इलेक्ट्रिक वाला होता है,
हाँ
राइट? वाटर
इलेक्ट्रिक वाला एंड बर्ड
यस
भी
यस।
वाटर वाला ही है बर्ड में भी नीचे ग्राउंड पे वाटर रहता है ग्राउंड की जगह तो
I really like this game. I think I will play it at some point.
it is really fun. I mean especially to figure out how to beat those bosses without knowing anything about them.
Mm,
So and I like how there's a minimal amount of travel just to sort of put a gap between each boss, like a reasonable gap. There's a like very less amount of uh, travel where you have to find the boss, which does not take long. I just I really like how this game is designed. Like it's just I think I might just get into a few more boss rush games after this.
stream maybe once you play this.
I will stream it when I do play it. And उसके अलावा we have been playing Street Fighter 3 together.
Yes. How do you like it?
I don't like getting my ass kicked, that's for sure.
Actually, on that note, I think you were playing pretty well, which was pretty unexpected because from my past experiences on games, on fighting games in general, I've seen that you don't invest too much. Like as you said for Elden Ring, right? That you don't like to invest too much into its mechanics and everything.
Elden Ring तो फिर भी ठीक है. I really like the idea of fighters, but
Mm,
uh, to truly enjoy fighters, you have to invest time into them outside of actually playing the game. You
mm,
have to go into an empty lobby and practice combos and moves.
mm,
And only then you'll be able to truly enjoy the game, like
mm,
as it is meant to be. And that gap of having to not play the game and still invest time in it, I I do not like that. I find that really off-putting. But also, I mean, it's not really a criticism of fighters. It's what makes them fun. But
mm.
I think at this age, at least, I cannot invest that much time into it
And
without
I
feeling bad
think
about it.
I think what you're suggesting is actually, for from what I experienced, is only fun when it is a team fighter, like from in Brawlhalla, in
Hmm.
which you can have team fights. In that case, it is somewhat viable to do that because even if you get good, you you can at least fight other people with having teammates and try to win. But just trying to get better to fight against your friends, I do not enjoy that
I would
or
say
find it
that
fun.
like Brawlhalla is a decent comparison with respect to media we have, the games we have played. But
Mm,
Brawlhalla, in my opinion, is generally way more casual than uh, like and approachable than something like Fighter. क्योंकि Brawlhalla में you can do basic moves and you can enjoy the game. You have pretty much figured out how the game works. But Street Fighters में if all you do is these punches and kicks, the basic moves, या फिर आप forward चलते हुए punch या पीछे चलते हुए kick, that's not going to make the game fun. You have to do some gymnastics with your thumbs in order to do actual moves.
एंड आई एक्चुअली जैसे तूने बोला था कि उसके अभी मॉडर्न फाइटर्स में शायद वो ऑप्शन रख रहे थे कि वी कैन टर्न इट ऑफ एंड जस्ट हैव इट द स्पेशल मूव सिंगल की वैसे हो जाएंगे.
हाँ,
आई थिंक दैट इज प्रेफरेबल इन माय पर्सनल ओपिनियन बिकॉज like it is not fun to try to get that moment in muscle memory and stuff. It just felt
I
annoying.
think for players like you and me who do not really want to get good at it, just want to have fun with the game, and they that is good. Like it's like it closes the gap this between beginners and intermediate players.
Mm.
It makes the game more approachable, which is fair. How have you been enjoying Street Fighter 3? I heard that you have been playing it more than I have.
Well, I only played it with Varun, I guess, but he is somehow really good at this game. Like what I think what the two of us do usually is we try to do the blocks and parry and time our moves. Varun does not do that. He just mashes his buttons and not randomly. He is able to somehow do the most ungodly of combos just accidentally or unknowingly. I don't know how he does them, but they just come out of nowhere and he's done every single combo of every single character, I think, at this point.
I don't uh, I don't not believe him when he says that he's just button mashing, but I also feel that that's only half the truth. Okay, from we know that he's more experienced in fighters than us. So he has a better idea of how it works, and he has said that. So he knows what to do with his thumbs in order to
Mm,
do special things.
mm. I was genuinely impressed by how quickly he was trying to figure out the combos of each character.
Hmm. Like he's way too overpowered for us.
Eh,
He does not give us time to breathe.
Yeah, there were other matches where I could have a somewhat even fight, or there were matches where he just perfect comboed from full health to zero health.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying that कुछ मैचेस में मतलब वो ऐसा लगता है कि हाँ थोड़ा कॉम्पिटिटिव है हम, बट इन अदर मैचेस फुल हेल्थ से जीरो हेल्थ तक पूरा कॉम्बो करके मार देते. यू डोंट इवन गेट अ चांस कि हुआ क्या अभी कुछ समझ नहीं.
Have you played many fighters पहले? क्योंकि मेरा एक्सपीरियंस फाइटर्स में बस बचपन में टेकन 3 खेला रहा है, which I absolutely loved.
आई हैव नॉट प्लेड एनी अदर फाइटर्स. आई गेस मैं सुपर स्मैश ब्रॉस वो तूने देखा है वो वाला निंटेंडो का गेम
That's more similar to
ब्रॉल
Brawlhalla,
वाला.
right? Uh,
यस, बट नॉट लाइक द स्ट्रीट फाइटर. मॉर्टल कॉम्बैट में खेला हूँ तेरे साथ और मेरे कजिन के साथ. मेरे कजिन के लैपटॉप पे था मॉर्टल कॉम्बैट, सो फॉर अ कपल डेज आई वुड से, बट नॉट मोर देन दैट.
hmm. This like I remember playing certain characters in Tekken 3 and trying to figure out their weird combos. Uh, uh, there was this alien samurai character called Yoshimitsu in Tekken 3, and he also had a sword. He was the weird character in the game. जैसे इस Street Fighter 3 में there's 12 right या उसका नाम 11 है कुछ तो नाम है weird goop जैसा जो है
हाँ.
and so how he's the weird character of Street Fighter 3 Yoshimitsu is the same. He can use his sword, spin his sword to use it as a sort of a helicopter के blades to fly across the screen or there's he can there's also a combo where he just stabs himself and commits suicide. एक वो
is
हाँ
is it an actual attack or is वो literally just is
it's
kills
he just kills himself. He can also like get on his ऐसे स्वॉर्ड पे ऐसे स्वॉर्ड को वर्टिकली जमीन पे रख के उस पे बैठ जाता है एंड देन जंप्स हॉप्स अराउंड लाइक अ कैंगरू तो स्वॉर्ड किसी को टच कर दिया तो दे गेट हर्ट इट्स ही इज a really weird character and I love that character उसके अलावा the other character I used to play was this Jackie Chan inspired character I think his name was Lee उसके भी मजेदार combos थे that's why I enjoyed it.
in Street Fighter you were playing what was the name of your character?
uh, Ryu.
Yeah, Ryu. Why did you decide to like, go stick with him?
uh, I don't know when I like पहली बार मैंने Fight Kit download किया and I tried playing it. That was just I played with and started figuring out. Because, okay, I would like to talk about the fighting game community. Fighting game community is amazing. I've realized. Because when I first downloaded Fight Kit, you know all these people. If you try to go in random matches on Fight Kit, you'll get beaten up. Usually, a lot of times, not always. But
Mm,
if it's an old player, or somebody who's been playing for a while, you cannot defeat them.
mm,
And that's what I was doing initially, because I had no one to play with at that point. So I was playing with randoms, and I did not know how to play.
mm,
And I would tell them that I'm new, like to like text Dalit as a new player looking for a challenge, new player here.
mm,
So somebody would challenge me, expecting that I'm a new player, and they would actively try to teach me. Like they spent time trying to teach me the game just through the
mm,
text. And they were really patient with it as well.
mm,
Like a guy was like उस time मैंने review लिया था and the guy was teaching me his combos वगैरह कि you can do this flying roundhouse kick वगैरह and stuff like that and,
mm,
and the uppercut kind of thing, the dragon punch. Uh,
mm,
and he was also the guy who taught me that parry was a thing in the game. And
mm,
like was the patiently he taught me how to parry until I could like parry ढंग से
mm,
and uh, then while leaving he told me to look up Evo Moment 37 क्या नाम है उसका wait
yeah, that is.
37, yes. Evo Moment 37. I did not know what it was at all. I did not know that I was about to witness the most special things I have ever witnessed in my life. I looked it up. Keep in mind that I spent like about half an hour just now trying to parry at all.
Hmm.
I know how difficult it is to parry,
Hmm.
and I have that in my mind. And I see this video play out. I'll give you a link to this video and you can leave it in the description so people can
Okay.
watch it. So I was watching the video. We see Ryu at a very low health. What is the character that you use?
Chun-Li.
Chun-Li, playing against Chun-Li. And Chun-Li, who has a lot of health still, uses her special. ड्यू की हेल्थ इतनी कम है लाइक इट्स नॉट इसका बार इस पॉइंट पे विजिबल भी नहीं है
Huh.
ही कैन नॉट ब्लॉक दोज अटैक्स he has like he's pretty much done at this point like, and when he does the special everybody assumes ki yeah this Chun-Li has won. You can hear in the background somebody's shouting, "Let's go, Justin!" And वो अपना स्पेशल करना शुरू करती है. He parries the first attack. Then he parries the second kick. वो बहुत तेजी से किक्स होती जा रही है लगातार. वो तीन चार किक्स साथ में पैरी कर देता है consecutively. And people gradually realize what's happening.
I think she does actually about 15 kicks in that special.
To just imagine इतने छोटे से time period में he parried all those kicks and they are not even like they're not even evenly
Yeah.
placed. Kicks you have to time it periodic भी नहीं है वो you have to.
Yes.
I do not know how you do that, especially in the pressure of a tournament final. Final था I think वो नहीं final था कि नहीं जो भी in the pressure of a tournament.
Hmm.
How do you do that? And that became the most iconic moment of fighting game history. And that day, right after watching it, I watched that video at least 30 times.
Well, at some point you have to do it. I'm already meaning Chun-Li at this point, so you have plenty of opportunity.
Actually, that's something a lot of fighting game enthusiasts do. I guess it's a part of their bucket list, some sort of bucket list. They so they stream sometimes now, I guess. The Justin who played Chun-Li, and
Hmm.
at the request of his fans, he they request him to let them try the Evo Moment 37. So he plays Chun-Li and they play Ryu and they just want to dodge. They parry all attacks and like after a lot of practice and everything they do.
Like, okay, I understand. If you're specifically practicing for that one move, you can eventually learn what is the pattern of that kick and develop the muscle memory for parrying it. But like
Hmm.
doing it on the run where you have like you did not expect before the match that you're going to do you're going to parry that special that is something really outstanding, like
No,
not the same level as like practicing it explicitly.
um, that's a really bizarre video. Do we have anything else to talk about with before? Oh, I guess I have to talk about the food, and I had maybe, and then we can get on to the final section of today's podcast where we recommend stuff to each other.
Yes,
By the way, I wanted to tell you about something else too. Uh, pretty much 2 हफ्ते पहले, uh, my brother told me about this hackathon he participated in. He was participating in. उसने रात भर बैठ के फिर काम किया. And then he told me वो hackathon जीत गया.
wait,
So
what?
he had to design some sort of secure system for payments where uh, no party involved is able to trace that payment to who sent what to whom.
Hmm.
So, like, not even the mediator. And so he designed a system where not even the mediator or even the payer and the payee realize they can try trace down who uh, has made the
That's
payment.
interesting.
So, like, if I'll share the uh, proposal he wrote for that with you if you feel curious. And
Sure.
uh, he uh, along with one other friend of his, he won that hackathon. उन लोगों को 2 लाख रुपए मिले.
2 lakh.
हाँ, हाँ. He was really happy, and I was really happy for him.
I am really happy for him. Go
Uh,
Sath.
yeah.
But
Uh,
like इसके ऊपर but already बहुत research नहीं हुई है. It feels like a very mainstream topic, security of a transaction.
I think he has been studying encryptions as well recently in his college. So I, I cannot provide you any background on that. Hmm. I don't know anything about it. But hmm. I think this was a hackathon by and what are they called? NCBI? Uh, wo, nahin, I don't remember who they are. यूपीआई सिस्टम किसने बनाया है?
ये भारत पे
हाँ.
गूगल पे.
And, uh, the NPCI. Yes, I think it's NPCI. Anyway, whatever. So, they organized this hackathon, I think. So, hmm. Yeah, that's it. I just wanted to share that with you. Was के lava the food I've had recently. I had biryani yesterday.
Hmm.
Had Indian after a long time. I'll share with you. And uh, because of Diwali, My cousin also sent me some gujia and laddus and a surprising amount of Toblerones.
Wait, what? Surprising amount of?
Toblerones वो पहाड़ वाली चॉकलेट होती है ना.
ओह, राइट राइट राइट, हाँ। वो जो एक ऐसे क्या बोलेंगे, प्रिज्म टाइप का, लॉन्ग प्रिज्म टाइप
हाँ 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 हाँ.
जिसका पैकेजिंग होती
Yes. Um,
है।
uh,
बिरयानी एक्चुअली लुक्स प्रिटी गुड।
हाँ, it was good. It was actually not bad. Uh, I told you about the noodles I ordered recent, like जब मैं पहली बार order किया था. I think that was right before the previous podcast. I wanted to say that it's sad how noodles can be that bad, like not very good. Like bad and like noodles have a tendency to be bad enough that a lot of times there's a good amount of times when instant noodles are just better than restaurants noodles you
Yes,
buy at restaurants, and that's just sad.
yeah. Noodles can be really good, like they are my favorite food, but they can also be really bad. Certain things, like if prepared poorly.
uh, I also had a Vietnamese sandwich banh.
That
I think
looks like a sandwich.
it's called a banh mi. I was not very fond of it, and I did not like it much. Yeah, uh, that's a
Those,
very boring thing to exist. It's just a lot of deli meat and vegetables between a subway like bread, as you describe it.
and are those carrot
I think they are
chocolates?
carrots, yes.
They look way too big for a sandwich.
I, I did not like it. मैंने उसके अलावा I had um mm, I had a blueberry. No, I had a cherry pie. Not very good, but I saw a cherry pie and I had it in the spirit of Twin Peaks. The cherry pie is the featured food alongside coffee quite prominently in Twin Peaks. And I went back to that restaurant where I had uh, ramen previously, this time with the intention to try donburi.
What is that?
It's meat over rice. I'll share a picture with you. And along with that, for the first time, I also had an onigiri.
Wait, which one is that? Black one is onigiri. Definitely right.
Onigiri left me onigiri, yeah. And uh, the donburi is on the right. That's meat and stuff. Uh, Meat, onion, and carrots on top with a soft boiled egg. और नीचे it's rice उसके.
Hmm.
Honestly, I've found both of them a little disappointing. Like the ramen was really good at this place, but yeah, like onigiri and donburi I was not very fond of.
What exactly is onigiri?
Rice ball.
Is it just rice ball or does it have anything else?
Rice ball उसके बीच में there can be a lot of things. Like
For this example, did it have any extra flavor? Rice.
I think it was pork in this. Uh, and there's usually also a leaf of nori. I don't know if you would call it a leaf. Nori on top of it. You know that seaweed ब्लैक कलर के ऊपर लगा चिपकाते हैं.
Hmm.
like I think the rice and the nori are the primary components of a rice ball.
Mm.
And some like well, I'm reading it on the internet, Wikipedia, onigiri traditionally have sour and salty fillings such as pickled Chinese plum, salted salmon, all those type of fillings.
Mm.
Huh. Yeah. Did you have anything interesting to eat?
I not that I remember. Like yesterday, I ate a burger, but it was just a burger. There's nothing much to say about it.
Hmm.
And other than that, like, okay, we had Diwali the past few days, so सब खीर वगैरह बनती है बड़े बनते हैं traditional Indian food and
Hmm.
I'm not much fond of I think I'm not fond of food in general. I don't actively seek out different types of food, so yeah, not really.
Hmm. I'll make you fond of food someday. Uh, okay. Do we have anything else?
I do not think so.
Then
बहुत
let's
लंबा
move on
एपिसोड है अच्छा
to
हाँ
the
let's
to
move.
the final section of this podcast. Although this is a new thing we are doing with our podcast as the host, why don't you explain what it is?
So we'll give each other some kind of media, well not media but anything, and we have to in the span of I guess two podcasts have to
Which is a
consume
month.
10. Huh?
We will recommend each other something for the other to consume and have
हाँ, और फिर when consume कर लेगा दूसरा person then we discuss it over the podcast.
hmm. We're not going to do it every podcast as you just said. Okay. It it's way more relaxed to do it like over a longer period of time. So we have decided to do it two podcasts at a, like once every two podcasts, which would be around once a month.
Mm.
So yeah, that sounds convenient enough. What do so who is going first?
You मैं अभी तक सोचा भी नहीं हूँ. I did not think कि मेरे को तेरे को देना है एक.
सोचा मैंने भी नहीं था.
Oh,
But like I was still deciding when I was not able to give it इतना अच्छे से thought. Mm, but I think I'm leaning towards something right now.
what is it?
I'm going to. This is the first time we are doing this section,
Mm-hmm.
and in uh and I think I should go a little. I'm deciding between whether to set expectations for what it should be like, or if to go easy on you because it's the first time.
बता भी दे भाई इतना ज़्यादा सस्पेंस बिल्ड कर.
I for now I have decided to go easy on you. So I recommend the one shot that I just mentioned. Goodbye, Ellie. Well, I
Mm.
hope that you like it. I don't know how.
But
Yeah.
wait. You not spoiled the whole plot to me already.
That was just the first few pages, right?
Oh, this whole plot ahead. Hmm, okay, okay. I will read it. It's just one shot, right?
Yeah, it's a one shot. It's pretty small. I read it in an hour, I think. It's less than an hour.
Okay. What do I recommend you?
You had this entire podcast to consider this. 3.5 घंटे हो गए. I was not expecting us to suddenly record the longest podcast we have ever recorded.
I was not expecting. Do you want to watch The Edge of Sleep?
I can only hope that these recommendations between us would be in good conscience, with hopes that the other would enjoy the experience and find something meaningful in it, in the experience.
Okay, I don't know if you would enjoy The Edge of Sleep because you do not watch Multiplier. And I was saying it because I would like to know your critique on it, I guess. But also, it is a small series. Like, you can definitely complete it in one sitting.
Beware
Oh,
of the chain of events you might uh, give rise to here with a single recommendation.
go ahead, man. I think it's fine. But also, there's one problem. I have already told you the whole plot. I don't know how much. I guess even knowing the plot, it won't matter much because they're already pretty upfront about it. Okay, I cannot come up with anything which I am sure you would enjoy. Honestly.
I mean, this
Okay,
mind
I
is
don't
right.
know.
Huh?
Put someone there.
I can right now think of one thing that you have been recommending to me for a while now. I mean, feels weird to mention it because that would be me recommending to myself. But I can think of Doki Doki Literature Club.
Ooh, I was not considering video games, but
Yes,
expecting.
uh, I was expecting an official recommendation.
बोला ना Doki Doki Literature Club.
Okay, so we are going to read Goodbye Eri, and I'm going to play Doki Doki Literature Club, and we'll get back to each other about it 4 weeks later. अब बच्चे होस्ट की तरह बाय बाय कह दे सबको.
Bye bye.
बाय बाय.